Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Fanfury Open Championship, sponsored by Fanfury. I am Mamba Senior, and alongside me is the man himself. He is none other than Icy Baby Icy. How are you doing, my friend? It's been a while. Been a while since I've seen you. I think the first time we're sharing the desk, but I hope you're doing well.
I'm definitely feeling amazing right here, Mamba. It's a pleasure going to be casting alongside with you as well. And yes, it is going to be our first time together, but I'm looking forward to see some really fun actions here in Clash Royale, especially when there are a lot of prominent figures in the Clash Royale community going to be competing today, because we are finally in towards the top 16 here today. And of course, I'm looking forward to see, for those of you guys watching at home as well, are a little bit curious of what is actually happening down here.
Look, for all the people watching from home, obviously it's going to be exciting, but for us as well, we have some amazing matches coming up. As a matter of fact, we actually had the chance to go back and see all the matches that happened yesterday as well. We'll talk about the schedule, we'll talk about all the other details of the tournament, but obviously the matches are going to be really exciting because we have some wonderful players, and we were just going through the stats right now, right? And some of these players have played in other tournaments where they've performed really well, have been playing for a very long time. So there is a lot of experience and definitely a lot of excitement for all the viewers, because two things, right? For viewers who just watch it for fun, obviously there's a lot of action, but for all the players who could not make it to the tournament or maybe just got out in the qualifiers, there's a lot to learn as well.
Exactly, there is so much to learn from all this pro players, especially when there's a new season. There is going to be a lot of trial and errors trying to adapt to the meta itself. So for those guys that are a little bit wondering here, we are going to be heading to the tournament info and show you guys what has been happening here for the details. As you can see up on screen, this is going to be the Fanfury Open Championship details. And if you guys are a little bit lost on who is participating in the tournament here, these are the participating countries that we have joined so far. And the total prize pool is $12,500 US. And we start things off as well. We have players from Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Maldives, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Philippines, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Thailand, as well as Vietnam participating to actually compete into the top 60. So a lot of players from all around the world has gathered here today, and we're finally here today to, give you guys a pretty fun time.
Well, absolutely, but 15 countries is a lot of countries, and obviously we have a massive prize pool as well, which we will talk about. $12,500 is quite a bit of money, but obviously it's really exciting to see all these players come across from different countries and participate in the same tournament, right? And that's the beauty of it. But $12,500, I see, between 8 players. We'll talk about the distribution, but it's a healthy chunk of a prize pool, yeah.
Yeah, definitely as well. Of course, they are here currently in the top 16, so they're one step away from actually taking a chunk from it. So they have to make it into the top 8. So in case you guys are wondering as well, all the players from all around the globe has battled out from the 12th and 14th April, where it is a open qualifiers from in-game private tournament where it is not shown in live stream. So they had to go through all the hassle of playing with players they do not know and potentially make it out. And once they made it out, they also played the top 32 match yesterday, which is not shown on stream or screen. But for us in the groups, we were able to have a little bit of grabs on how the players were playing throughout the entire groups, which we will be sharing later on. And of course, once they made it out of the respective brackets, they are currently now at the final stage where it's going to be playing today as well as tomorrow for the top 16 spots.
Oh, absolutely. But talking about the prize pool breakup, right? The first place gets $5,000, the second $2,500, third and fourth $1,250, and fifth to eighth gets $625. So it's good to see that it's not just the top 3 players walking away with cash, but it's the top 8 players walking away with a lot of cash. But what we'll talk about now is the players that are playing over here, because all of these folks have a lot of experience behind them. I'm sure they have a lot of fans waiting for them to come up on the screen, and these are top 16 finalists. We have DK, DVJ, Famous Kid, Jess, Bavia, Sir Smoke, who I've been hearing a lot about, by the way, because at least in the Indian circuit, right, he's been one of those players who's always shined out and played better than the rest. But we have Mish, we have Mohsin, and then of course we have the other 8 participants as well.
Exactly. From here as well, the next 8 here is going to be Moogie, Noisy Boy, Nova Unknown, Sammy, YouTube, Sukar, Messi, Venom, as well as Yuki and Lost. And ladies and gentlemen, these are your top 16 finalists. And it's really amazing that they will be representing their country to compete for the #1 spot here in Fanfury Open Championship. And currently, based on the top 16, we have 2 players representing from Malaysia, 3 players representing from Pakistan, and 5 players representing from India, Singapore 2 players, Bangladesh 2 players, Nepal 1 player, and Indonesia 1 player. So all the players are having a lot in terms of of their national pride to actually compete to be the best of the best here in both Southeast Asia as well as SA. So I'm looking forward to see what they can bring to, because now let's take a look at the brackets, because we are going to be seeing who is going to be facing off against who as of yet.
Absolutely, but I do believe there has been a change because Jess has been promoted to the quarterfinals because there was a forfeit in that matchup. Messi obviously forfeiting the match, but then again, looking at the entire bracket, we're going to start off with Venom and Mega Bavia, right? And this matchup in itself is going to be really interesting. But for all the people in India at least who've been watching and following this entire game for as long as it's existed, I still remember 3-4 years ago, right? I used to see so many players take part in a lot of these events that happen locally as well. And Sir Smoke definitely waiting for that matchup. But I'm pretty sure Bhavya and the rest of the boys are going to be as promising. But obviously, we have a couple of matches lined up today. We will go up to the first 2 quarterfinals, and then the last 2 quarterfinals. Semifinals and grand finals will happen tomorrow.
Yep, of course. We do have a little bit of grasp on what the players are going to be playing as well. And I believe Famous Kid is one of the players that really stayed out for me. He's super famous, but there is so much unknown variable coming from him because he got a free buy in yesterday's game. And even today, this is going to be my first time seeing his comp. So it's going to be an element surprise for him to actually play against Moogie later on, which we are going to be watching his game after Venom as well as Mega Bavia being our first match for today. So it's a little bit, I'm super excited to see. I know personally as well that Mamba, you are going to be a fan of Sir Smoke a lot, the favorites coming from India. But of course, all things considered, we have to make it fair for everybody else. Let's take a look at the schedules on what today's match is going to start things off. First and foremost, we are going to be having Venom versus Bavia Jod Singh. This is going to be the first match of the day to start things off here.
It's a great match to start off with as well because Bavia has a lot of LAN experience. He's actually played in front of a crowd, so obviously he knows it better how to control his nerves and whatnot. But you can never underestimate Venom either. He has a lot of experience. But talking about the rest of the matches, right? Moogie, Famous Kid, Noisy Boy, Yuki lose, Messi and Jess. Obviously that's already taken place, so Jess has been promoted. But then we have Sir Smoke and Mish, and that's one more game that I'm really excited about because of the history of all these players. But again, Sir Smoke having a lot of LAN experience. And I believe he's actually won one of the tournaments that happened over here. And not just that, he's played in a couple of others where he was the runner-up. So definitely has a lot of experience, I see.
Exactly. And of course, the following matches as well, we will have DK going up against Nova Unknown, DVJ against Sammy YT, Sukar versus Mohsin, and then we will proceed with the quarterfinals 1 as well as quarterfinals 2. So like you said as well, we are all super hyped up for Sir Smoke a lot's games coming from representing from India. But personally, I really like DVJ's performance. Based on our brackets for this current season in our groupings as well, DVJ is currently the highest trophy among all the players thus far in the current season. Not the previous season, the current season. So he does have a little bit more experience throughout the rest of the participants when it comes to the current meta. Does his playstyle fit the current meta, or will experience come to a factor? So there is going to be a battle between skill. There is going to be a battle between experience when it comes to this kind of metas as well. And of course, I'm looking forward to see how they develop as well. So speaking of meta here, Mamba, personally, we've seen over the years as well, especially coming Worlds, there has been a strong falling out for Electro Giants, which is kind of weird. And recently, people have kind of shifted to Archer Queens, Skeleton Kings, or occasionally Miners to actually go for chip damage, and occasionally sneaking in a couple of Mortar picks as well. But overall, in general, yesterday's games, we've seen a lot of card cannon builds coming in. So Mamba, I don't know what we're expecting, but I've heard rumors as well. Some of the players have been hiding their strategies on top of it all.
I was actually going to get to that because we did talk about pocket stats before we actually went live, right? I'll get to that because Venom, I believe, might have a couple. But at the same time, yesterday when we were discussing this, Cannon Card and Mortar going together, then again, you did mention that AQ is something that has been used a lot, but not in this event particularly. So there have been a lot of off-meta picks, but was it just because it was an early stage in the tournament? Are they saving it for the later stages? And obviously the card bans come in really handy as well, because a lot of times you look at the matches, you look at the sheet, you look at the the data and you start wondering if this was a pocket strat, but sometimes it's just the card being banned, so you can't really use it, right? So it is definitely a question that we'll both have, but at the same time, there have been a couple of off meta picks. But talk about pocket stats, right? What do you think? You think it's going to be a factor today?
Okay, see, that's the thing, right? When it comes to poker strategy, it's going to be very important. But when we talk about general of the game itself, in order to play like Archer Queen, Skeleton King, etc., you need to be at least King Tower level 14. And some of the players may not necessarily reach that level yet. So it's going to be a long grind coming from these players. So for them to go up against Archer Queen corner or maybe even Skeleton King comp, they are going to be having a lot of troubles. And oftentimes now in the current our tournament format as well, each player gets one ban rather than the entire deck gets completely banned and going into the second game. So the entire series, each player, they will be choosing one particular card of their choice, and they will start banning against each other. So forcing a ban onto Archer Queen for yourself doesn't necessarily mean your opponent is going to be banning Skeleton King. So it's going to be very difficult, but they have to figure a way to actually deal with it as well. And I think when it comes to pocket strategies, Mamba, you talked about it as well. Graveyard Poison is a very cheesy way to deal with this kind of compositions.
Absolutely, Graveyard and Poison can chip away, and it's very annoying to deal with as well, right? Because it's something that is AoE at the end of the day, even with Graveyard, right? You have skeletons coming in from all the directions, but at the same time, the problem is getting the timing right, because you might be able to counter maybe Graveyard, right? Poison, there's no way you can't really manage that, but getting the timing right for something like Graveyard or something which let's say, for example, I saw a lot of Royal Hogs being used yesterday, and I believe it was Mohsin who was going for a lot of split strategy, which is something that he used to make sure that he has constant pressure on the opponent. So it really does come down to individual players, because usually when you go up to the world stage, right, the play style is fairly, I mean, you could more or less put them in under an umbrella, but well, we'll talk about the stats later on. We have the game ready, so let's hop on in the game and discuss all the strategies which are going to happen. So, but the first thing, right, before we head on to the game, I was saying, on the world stage, you can probably put them under an umbrella, but right now in this tournament, we've seen very different play styles.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of cheese strategies as well, and I agree. Mortar is one of the very, very difficult cards to actually play as well. It requires a lot of skill when it comes to displacements. Oftentimes, you kind of need to cycle through it by getting like low, I would say low elixir cards such as skeletons or even fire spirits, which are very helpful in luring and against Mega Knights as well, which. Arguably, it's something where we completely ignored the topic. Mega Knight is just so much value and so annoying to deal with. However, it's very risky as well because it can be used to set up for King Tower activations by the defenders themselves. So oftentimes, maybe a tornado is great, a couple of Teslas with a couple of skeletons to lure it into the King Towers, which gives us a lot of activations. I think when it comes to this kind of displacement methods, DVJ is one of those players that has used play this kind of similar play styles where he uses Tesla or even the miners to play a chip damage. So he plays very, very defensively with mortars and then go for miner. But without further ado, enough discussion. We are going to be jumping straight into the game right now. It's going to be the match between Venom versus Bavia. The first match in this best of 3 series. And currently, this is going to be the 2 ban cards. That is going to be the Tornado as well as the Archer Queen coming from Venom. So I'm not exactly sure whether or not the Skeleton King is going to be played for this match, but both teams looks like they are going to be playing this slow, hoping to drag it into the later stage of the game.
Well, absolutely, but we do have the Skeleton Army coming in. But a quick counter, but just to make sure, right, this is still an equal trade. This is still an equal trade, and both of them just waiting it out to make a move. Waiting for the opponent to make a move, but now the bat's coming in. Again, just practically mirroring the deck, at least in terms of elixir.
Yeah, this is very smart as well. I believe like both teams have played a very similar composition. It's more like they don't exactly want to play this in the early stage of the game because they want to go in for 2x elixir or 3x and to ramp it up. And it seems like both players do want to play a very rampy composition. Great defense coming from Venom as well, forcing out the mirrors as well as the clone coming in from Mega Bavia, and he doesn't get any value out of it. So it's still equal trades coming from both sides.
Absolutely, but then again, it's still a game of patience. They've not seen all the cards, and look at this, though. We do have the Lava Hound coming up. Now, the question is, how do you counter this?
Oh wow, this is so smart. It seems like both players are playing a very similar variation of Lava Hounds, and because of that, they are trying to drag it in towards the next 25 seconds. Once the 2x overtime comes in, everything is going to be super fast, and a big clone coming from Venom as well. It seems like Mega Bavia is going to be able to deal with it as well as he pops in a very late Green Dragon suckling through, but he's taking too much cheap damage on top of it all.
That he is, but look at that split lane pressure coming up and just forcing Bavia to try and react to it. But Venom definitely playing a lot more patiently. The clone spells coming in really handy, but the chip damage taken away quite a chunk of the tower health on the left side for Bavia.
Oh, Venom knows he's got the upper hand. They're both playing very similar comps. The only different variation is going to be the helicopter as well as the Elixir Rush Barbarian there, and that's going to be very tough. And now here comes the double close. It's going to be a battle between close. Flying Machine on the sides as well to try and go for it, coming in from Venom and to duke it out. It seems like he is going to win the better trades just because he's got a composition. A big fireball coming in from Bavia, but he is still going to take some chip damage.
He's definitely going to take a lot of chip damage. Now the problem is, if he cannot hold the defense, then it's going to be a problem. But I don't think that is going to be a question because they're dishing out so much damage, right? And now he can just easily hold the line and wait for the timer to run out. That's all he needs to do.
Yep, overtime comes in. Elixir on the sides coming in for a desperation attempt coming from Bavia. And I think this might be over as well because we are heading into a sudden death, and that's it. It seems like it is going to be game one coming from Venom. Well done indeed. So it makes so much sense based on this composition that Venom bans the Archer Queen, and that composition is just so hard to deal with.
No, absolutely. Now, here's the thing, right? The manner in which Venom actually won, right? Again, the clone spells coming in really clutch, especially in the moments when there was a lot of pressure being put on the left side. But here's the thing. I did not expect the first game to end this quickly because having seen the games, at least yesterday, right? I assumed there would be a little more competition. Maybe the games would get stretched out a little bit more. But Venom seemed really dominant on this one.
Yeah, it seems like understanding that AQ is going to be in the meta, right? It's either AQ or SQ. SK when it comes to the current meta. And the reason why it's become very popular because of the Swarm meta is because Bandits has had a little bit of nerf back then. Back then, a 3 mana cost Bandit just drops in, you know, can just wipe out a full Swarm by just chain dashing all the way through. But in this current meta, it doesn't do exactly that. So even though it's a very minor change to it, it causes the impact when it comes to a lot of cards, and which forces like Archer Queen to be very crucial in these situations to benefit in clearing Swamp. So forcing out massive fireballs or arrows coming in is going to be very crucial because it burns out a lot of elixirs. And I like how Venom understood that he had the better variation of the Lava Hound comp and completely destroyed Bavia. So now it comes down to Bavia, where how do I deal with this composition? Like, we're playing similar comps, we're playing clones, we're playing Lava Hounds. We've got a mix up, and Archer Queen is out of the equation right now, and I'm a little bit worried how he's going to tackle the situation.
Honestly, same here, because here's the problem, right? You did mention that forcing out arrows and whatnot can definitely create a lot of problem in terms of elixir management, but Venom was smart enough to know that even with the counters that he was going for, right, he waited for Bavia to make a move, and then even the trades that he had, right, were equal elixir trades. He wasn't getting a negative trade early on in the game, and then obviously at the end of the game, just building so much pressure, right? And that Bavia could not cope up with. But I do believe Bavia still might just have a trump card up his sleeve, maybe understanding what went wrong in the first game itself. But if you could have Bavia change one thing, you've seen the first game, right? If Bavia could change one thing, what could it be?
He's got to play a little bit of a rush comp, right? The thing about Lava Hounds is that it's really weak against AQ comps as well as comps that require low elixir and high value when it comes to drop comps. So having up Rages, having up Royal Hawks, like you said as well, is very beneficial in early stage because it forces Venom to not be able to use Lava Hounds rather early. And I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be the case, but having the Lava Hound in mind, I'm not sure if Bavia is thinking that maybe Venom is playing the exact same comp. But if it does happen, he will be able to adapt to it.
What I really like though, and look at this, now here's the question, Tombstone coming in, but the counter, dishing out so much damage, but is it worth it? I'm not quite sure, but alright, the SK comes in. Now this is where it starts getting interesting because we do have a change from Bavia.
Yeah, this is a great change as well. He's gonna go for a different Swarm as well, and it seems like it is gonna be a switch up coming from Venom as well. So he is gonna be expecting that this is happening as well. Considering AQ is gonna be taken out of the equation, means that he can go for a variation of a Swarm comp. And I'm not exactly sure how Venom is gonna do with this, but the Valkyrie shows coming in from Bavia is gonna be so crucial in this kind of situations because it does clear out most of the minion swarms coming from Venom, unless he does have another Lava Hound.
Absolutely, but the pressure from Bavia right now is unreal because he did get a bit of damage up front, but at the same time, Venom did get a lot of damage on the right tower as well. But here's the thing: the one thing I noticed, right, Venom has been really patient with all the counters, and he's made sure that even with the counters that he's had, he might take a little bit of damage, but he's not going for a negative elixir trade. It's so smart. It's so simple, but yet so smart.
Yeah, I'm really curious what's the final card for Venom right now, because right now, based on his overall drafts, he is gonna struggle with this SK comp because he doesn't have a lot of tools that have high wave clears, in this case swarms, and he's having the Musketeer doing a fantastic job, but how long can he last? Because eventually he's got to find a way to break through the defense, and somehow the Giants managed to chip away on Bavia, and Bavia just completely got destroyed because of it. This is a big turnaround apparently.
Absolutely, Venom is controlling the pace of the game. At this point, I believe Bavia can do whatever he wants, but it is always going to be Venom controlling the pace of the game unless there's a massive slip-up. But now, again, taking a little bit of damage, but is this going to be enough? I don't think so. The Giant coming in again, and this is when it starts getting tricky for Bavia to hold the line because everything is going against him. So much pressure being built up by Venom right now.
Oh, this is so smart of Venom as well. He didn't show his graveyard to the last tick, and now Bavia cannot respond to this because he's got to worry about this Giant. He showed his Valkyrie a little bit too early. It's great, but if you do not take a frontal action, he is not going to help him at all. And just like that, Bavia, he is going to potentially lose the match right from the get-go because of this outplay coming in from Venom.
Oh my lord, yeah, no, this isn't looking pretty for Bavia. I do believe Venom has the upper hand over here, and the game's pretty much done with unless, of course, there's a miracle, which I don't really see happening, but at this point, it's sudden death, and just needs to cycle through. Once he gets the graveyard once again, it's going to be an easy victory.
Yeah, this might be over as well. Yeah, he is. The graveyard comes in. He goes in for the Valk, but I don't think he can do too much. 30 damage, like 1 trip damage, and it's over. Congratulations to Venom with a big, sick outplay going up against Bavia. It seems like even though Bavia's got the swarm, but the Giant is just too hard to deal with. Well done, well done.
Absolutely.
I did not expect that at all.
But the amount of pressure that Venom actually built up is unreal, and I do believe this was, in this game at least, I believe Venom was definitely outclassing Bavia in every way possible. Patience, the knowledge of the game, and especially, I think the highlight of the game for me was not the way he built pressure, the way he used Musketeer, right? With the Giant obviously tanking all the damage, Musketeer being in his area, just waiting it out 2 tiles behind and dishing away chip damage, and at the end of the day, that allowed him to defend his line.
Yeah, that was really smart as well. Like, the Inferno Dragon was very important coming in from Bavia to actually deal with the Giants, but unfortunately he reviewed it a little bit too early, and the moment it got picked off rather early from Musketeer, that was pretty much a done deal because whenever he tries to go in for a Swarm, there's always going to be a solution for that, and for Venom to actually outplay him on 2 different fronts, one at the back and the front, is just brilliant to watch how that Venom is just so patient in the timings as well. And I like the ramp up in the game number 2, especially with the first Musketeer, which we will be jumping into highlights right now to give you guys a little bit more insights of what actually went down between this match.
Absolutely, but then again, you did mention the swarms and the counters, right? And I do believe Venom counted perfectly, but walk me through this, right? Walk me through this. Where do you think Bavia exactly went wrong?
You know, see, that's the thing, right? Both players, they have a very similar comp coming from this match, but the only variation is pretty much the Elixir runner coming from Bavia, which doesn't exactly help him a lot because you want to set things up with that to pair it up with the Lava Hound, which unfortunately is total of 11 elixirs, which can only be performed really, really well, I think, during like 2x or 3x. But before you got to that stage, you have to build out like a big ramp to actually get into that stage, which obviously Venom is not gonna give it to him, and he knows that because of this composition, he's gonna get the upper hand of that. So well done coming in from Venom.
Oh, absolutely, and it's quite interesting to see that the sheer domination that he's had. I'm really interested to see because look, this is still the round of 16. The moment he starts moving on, right, goes to the quarterfinals. If he wins in the quarter, he goes to the semis. Can he keep up with the same momentum? It's going to be difficult, obviously, because the competition keeps on getting tougher and tougher the moment you start climbing the ladder. But if he can, then I do believe he has a really really good chance at winning the tournament.
Yeah, he definitely stands a lot of chance as well. And Venom, arguably a pretty underdog as well, because based on the achievements here, Bavia, he does have a very decent achievement. He was in ESL India Premierships Winter, Fall, Summer 2019. He got in twice 4th place and once in 7th place. To be taken out rather early in this stage here shows that there are a lot of up and coming rising stars, and Venom being a technical was just a wow factor. A really, really good underdog victory coming round number 1 coming from
Well,
him.
absolutely. Now, here's the thing, right? Bavia definitely came in as a favorite, right? When we were talking about the brackets as well, I was looking out for Bavia and Sir Smoke. But with that being said, he was outclassed. I'm not even saying this was a close match. I do not believe this was a close match, even though
No.
we did go to overtime, because you do expect that in a professional match. But the
Yeah.
sheer dominance that Venom had, right, was unbelievable to me. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing because that means that there is more competition in the region and the players are improving.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The only difference between Bavia and Venom is all about timings, right? Like, Venom just played it a little bit patient, managed to beat our ramp, and just completely shut him down. And I think Bavia's adaptation to game number 2 was really smart, expecting that maybe Venom is going to play the exact same comp. Unfortunately, that did not happen as well. And most of the professionals, they understand that in the world stages here, after you play the first deck, you don't necessarily get to play the exact same deck game number 1. But here we allow it, only banning 2 cards, which is a player of your choice. So I like how Venom just making sure that the moment I ban Archer Queen, I can play any comp that has very, very big hordes or swarms, and I will just be able to make it through, because there's nothing an Archer Queen can do if it's not in the game.
That is true, but the next matchup, right, is going to be Moogie versus Famous Kid, and we'll talk about that as well. But obviously, the last thing that I want to say, right, about the first game that happened is it's almost. I wouldn't say funny, but it's very interesting to see the sort of composure Venom had, given the fact that I didn't mention that Bavia has LAN experience, and
Yeah.
LAN experience can mean the world's difference to a player, because the first time you go to a LAN and you play on the stage, right, there are a lot of nerves, you have people watching you in front of your face, and it's not easy to deal with that pressure. But clearly Venom coming out on top, so props to Venom for playing that well.
Yeah, indeed. And that's the perks of playing from home, right? We're working from home, we're chilling, we're very comfortable. We're probably wearing boxes right underneath us. And it's just, if you're playing in the safety and comfort zones here, sometimes being comfortable is the best situation. And Venom played it so comfortably in that game. And of course, for these guys that are just tuning in, these are the current schedules here. I know you guys are super excited for a couple players. I believe Sir Smoke a Lot is gonna be Mamba's favorite when it comes to this conversation. But of course, that's pretty much the first series gone and dusted. Congratulations to Venom making it to the top 8. He will be walking away with a guaranteed prize pool. Just how big it is, we don't exactly sure. Not exactly sure, but the next matchup is something that I'm really looking forward to see. It is going to be a matchup between Moogie as well as Famous Kid. And I have the luxury to actually see a lot of Moogie's gameplay. He loves playing miners and goblin miner comps here, where he is going to be right in your face. So it's going to be a different variation coming from yesterday's close qualifiers compared to what we just saw as well, a swarm-oriented playstyle. So we are going to be expecting a lot of chip damage coming from Moogie's playstyle, but I'm not exactly sure about Famous Kid, because he is pretty much here in the top 16, unknown. Even for us in the group as well, we didn't see his matches at all. And can he bring an element of surprise? I'm not exactly sure. But what I do know is that Famous Kid, he does have a pretty decent achievements coming into this tournament, Mamba.
Oh, absolutely. Talking about his achievements, right? 32nd place in the Seattle 2021 World Finals. I'm talking about the World Finals. I'm not talking about a regional tournament. So being one of the top 50 players in the world is no small feat. So he definitely is a giant in his own right. But we've seen a giant slayer right now in the first game. That was Venom. So you never know. You could come in as a hot favorite and still not have a good day at work. So is this going to be a tournament for the underdogs? We don't know yet, but the tone has definitely been set.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And on top of it all, he was also Star Championship Southeast Asia Open rank #1. So he was first place on his third respective qualifiers. So it shows that he does have the experience. So and in the current trophy season as well, and based on the groupings here, I've talked about DVJ having the highest trophy in the current season. Famous Kid is third among the rest. So this is going to be something that Moogie has to overcome. Maybe he's showed a couple of cards through his profile here and there, but we don't exactly know. But what I do know is that Moogie played miners and also got a lot of chip damage compositions. These are very, very easily countered by card cannons, by Teslas, or maybe even a couple of tombstones as well, which are very, very good at handling these kind of situations. But do you deal with it with structural damage? Do you play this comp against by using towers or structures, or do you outrat the opponent? In this case, poison graveyards or mirror his matchup in terms of minor. So I'm looking forward to see whether or not Famous Kid is going to adapt this way, or does he play his meta, which is very popular now, the Archer Queen and the Skeleton King comp.
Absolutely, but I do believe we've seen a bit of a swarm meta, right? I mean, I'd love to see some structures just for some variety, right? But at the end of the day, it really comes down to the players' play styles, and it could change. We've seen some really surprising picks over here. So hopefully, we do get to see an interesting matchup at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what you use, as long as you can get the W right next to your name, right? And at the end of the day, you can talk about meta, you can talk about picks, but if on game day it doesn't work out for you for whatever reason, nothing is going to save you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And we haven't seen a Mega Knight as well, even though MK is like really, really popular everywhere. It's just so much value in dueling against Swarms. Surprised now we didn't see a MK in the previous game by both Bavia as well as Venom. Maybe because they don't want to risk getting a tornado, or maybe even a King Tower activation, which we didn't see as well, which is kind of surprising. But obviously, we are going to see those kind of gameplays when we reach into maybe the top 4 or top 8 scenario where the best of best are competing, because every second counts, and it might go way beyond overtime as well. It will come to a stage where the amount of damage to deal to one of the towers is going to decide the matter whether or not you win or lose. So I agree that what you said as well, Mamba, you talked about side lane pressures, right? You want to play dual lanes, but oftentimes in high tier meta players or high rank players, they don't exactly play that. They want to buy time so that they can try set up down towards the mid control on their side of the base, potentially trying to set up for a King Tower activation or low value cost that gets a high value of damage when it comes to having 2 towers attacking a couple of units down mid. So we haven't seen that kind of high level play yet, but I'm looking. And oftentimes, these are only played with mortar comps, which are very difficult to play.
Absolutely. But what really excites me, right, is the displacement meta. We did talk about activating the King Tower. And one thing that I've noticed, right, which is very difficult, obviously, to get right, is if you're playing a fisherman, for example, you could potentially reel a card in, but at the same time, it's so damn difficult to time it, because if you don't time it right, you will not reap the benefits. Obviously, sometimes it can be beneficial, but if we do get to see it today, that will be very exciting for me to watch, because displacement metas, I do believe, take it a notch higher in terms of just quick thinking and actually outstarting your opponent.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think one really, really good way to actually deal with the what's it called, the swarm composition is going to be the firecrackers. But the thing with firecrackers is that it deals really, really well with swarms. But if you place your units just nice enough, the range coming from the firecrackers can actually proc a king activation, king tower activation very, very easily. So it's super risky to play this kind of firecracker comps. But I think when it comes to this kind of situations here, sometimes you gotta take the risk, even though you know that this is gonna happen. Sometimes you gotta deal with it with the firecracker. You keep it as like a pocket last hole in your cycle coming in from him, which was really, really nice. One thing about keeping cycles is that I think Venom demonstrated that he was able to surprise Bavia very, very well with his graveyard as a final, which I don't think he expected it as well. Because oftentimes, when we talk about Giants, we talk about Hawk for sure. Royal Hawks coming in to actually pair it out to get more pressure on both lanes. But I think Bavia did not expect that it wasn't Hawks. It came down with a graveyard. It was just like an element of surprise for him. So well done coming from Venom to catching it. But that's the thing. It's only for these games. And currently, Venom is going to be in the quarterfinals. That means he is going to be playing a second time later on. And if the players themselves are watching this game, they are going to be worried about whether or not he is going to be playing the exact same comp. In this case, the Giants again, which is very easily to be handled, but can be tricky at times.
Wait, didn't you mention something about Electro Giants being used early on in the day? In matches yesterday it happened, I'm assuming, because I did not notice it because I wasn't able to go through all the games. But was it a thing yesterday?
The thing about Electro Giants, right? It has been very, very popular in the previous meta, but it has hit a significant nerve where players tend to kite the Electro Giants with buildings. That's why buildings has been very, very popular lately, right? Like card cannons, Teslas, or oftentimes mortar as well, to try and delay the push. And oftentimes it doesn't do a fantastic job. And when it comes to Electro Giants, one of the most important spells that you need is going to be either Freeze or even the Tornado. And game number 1 just now, it was banned. So it's understandable why some of the players, they don't want to bring this comp without the Tornado, without maybe even a cheese strategy. Okay, I would say a cheese strategy would be a Sparky mirrored with an Electro Giant, which is extremely difficult to play with, but not impossible to not deal with. So it's annoying. It's annoying. I just say it's annoying. But without further ado, we are going to be jumping up towards this next game right now because I know you guys are excited. We got to see what's there. It is going to be the match between both Moogie as well as Famous Kid up on screen.
Absolutely, and we do have an early push coming in. And this time around, we didn't actually have to wait as much for some action coming in, but this is really interesting. The building placed right in front of the tower, yeah?
Yeah. He wants to value a little bit chip damage as well, but it seems like both cards that's going to be banned here is going to be the Archer Queen as well as Lava Hound. So Famous Kid, I think he doesn't want to deal with this kind of RAM composition, likewise coming in from Moogie. So Skeleton Queen is something that is going to be Infector, but I don't think they're playing it. Seems like Firecrackers is going to be on its way. This is a great chance for Moogie to actually try and bait out the Firecracker to set up for King Tower activation. And oh no, he's gonna get it. That's a free one as well. He anticipated it with the lock, but patience from Moogie with the skeletons a little bit late and still got it. So this is big value coming from Moogie.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is massive value. I'm not sure how Famous Kid is going to counter this because he did have a lot of chip damage to the left tower with the log, right? But the log is being countered as well. And we do have the Hog Rider going in, but this tower is going to be really annoying to deal with unless of course, you have a Tornado, which I haven't seen yet. I'm not sure if it's going to be a thing right now.
This is so unfortunate for Famous Kid, but as of yet, he does have a little bit upper hand in terms of structural damage. So he is, even though King Tower's activation is on Moogie, but as long as he goes for chip damage coming from Famous Kid, he is going to come up on top, and he's doing a fantastic job at that by playing with Hawk Riders. But as of now, he's waiting for Moogie to respond, and now another Hawk Rider attempt. It is going to delay, but it's not entirely foolproof. P.E.K.K.A is a great way of dealing with it, but I don't think Moogie has it as well. And final card revealed from Moogie is going to be the Firecracker, and based on this comp, he is actually kind of mirroring Famous Kid a little bit, but slightly different variations.
Oh, absolutely, but still the chip damage coming in. And the one thing that I really like, right, is the fact that we've seen Famous Kid keep the pressure up, so the log is not able to chip away at the tower on the left, and this is incredible. This is incredible foresight coming in from Famous Kid, and this shows the experience that he has as well, right, because he's played on such a high level, but then again, this log might just be able to chip away. Yes, indeed, it will, but then again, the Tesla's coming in clutch.
Yeah, seems like it's going to be double Teslas as well for Famous Kid. And on top of Earthquake, he gets big damage as well by setting up preemptively with the Tesla early to get a little bit more value to Hawk Rider. But still, it is still pretty even coming in from both sides. Famous Kid still having a little bit of upper hand when it comes to structural damage. He's only about 300 ahead, and it seems like another Hawk Rider comes in with the Earthquake on top of it all. Moogie needs to figure a way. He finally pops the Electro Spirit. He clutches his way through, keeps it alive momentarily, but he's still 400 behind Famous Kid as of yet.
But look at the cycle that is coming. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and he's cycling with 2 right now. Skeleton and Ice Spirit, and he's going to be able to get that Earthquake again really quickly. Earthquake and the log going to be chipping away at the tower on the left. Now this is going to be really interesting to see how does Moogie counter this.
Yep, another Earthquake coming in from Famous Kid as well. So much value, dealing damage on towards the Valkyrie on top with the Firecrackers. It's just so much value to do with. And now Famous Kid, he is just benefiting so much. Look at the Firecrackers, there's so much damage. Oh, in general, Moogie forced to preemptively use the Earthquake on the right side, but can't get any more value from this. And Famous Kid is just getting so much damage across. This is huge coming from Famous Kid. So what if it's King Tower activation? As long as my Earthquake is doing job, it is just phenomenal to watch.
It is phenomenal to watch, but what is even better to watch is the fact that Moogie is not giving up. He is chipping away at the right tower, but is this going to work out? I don't think so. The Earthquake again just cycling through it so quickly, but the log at the same time not being able to dish out enough damage. The problem is that Moogie needs to keep his lineup, otherwise he's going to end up losing the tower and obviously losing the matchup as well. But here's the question. It's still anybody's game. Moogie needs one good play and a misplay from Famous Kid, which I do not believe is going to happen.
A mess up from Moogie from the Earthquake on the Tesla. He's not gonna get the Hound through just because of that. And just like that, Famous Kid is gonna get even more cheap damage, but looks like it's gonna be a desperation attempt coming from Moogie. He's all in onto the right tower as well. Can he get it? No, he cannot. And that is gonna be Famous Kid taking the left tower. Oh, just a slight outplay. Well done coming from Famous Kid from that game. Mirror matchup. My goodness, what a game.
This was incredible. See, this is the excitement that I've been talking about the entire time, right? It was wonderful to watch this. It wasn't a one-sided matchup. Of course, we did see a little bit of a slip-up over there at the end, but Moogie did not give up, and I do believe he deserves a lot of praise for what he did, but at the same time, so smart from Famous Kid. Being able to cycle that quickly, especially in overtime, right? When you double and triple elixir coming up, and then he had 2 cards to cycle with, quickly just cycling through, getting that log and the Earthquake cycle going on again and again and again, just chipping away at the tower, and there was nothing that Moogie could have done because he had to defend himself and then at the same time attack. And I do believe maybe just there's a slight chance where if Moogie was a little more aggressive early on in the game, he might have been able to make a better use of the log that he had, because he had a lot of logs which were not dishing out damage at the tower.
I'm not gonna lie, that was a pretty good game coming from Moogie. Moogie, he was playing it very smart. He was getting a little bit greedy for the King Tower activation, which was the right thing to do. Oftentimes, once you get it, most of the times you would win your matchup. But what he did not expect was that Famous Kid was mirroring each other. They were playing an exact same mirror matchup using Earthquake as a chip damage tool, which doesn't exactly do much because the King Tower activation just doesn't benefit from this kind of scenarios. You can't actually do too much because of it. And because of that, I think Famous Kid got like 2 or 3 additional hits off the left side of the tower with that earlier King Tower activation. So I must say Moogie was caught by surprise for sure, but well done coming from Famous Kid for actually benefited it, because I think Moogie did not expect it to be a mirror matchup at all. Not gonna lie.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. It's not as clear as the first game that happened. Right? Venom was definitely coming out on top. And in this game, Moogie and Famous Kid, it's still anybody's matchup. Obviously, Famous Kid came out on top because of his tactical genius that he was and the way he uses his entire deck. But I do believe Moogie still has a massive chance to make a comeback. Famous Kid is still not outclassing him, as we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, that was so smart coming from Famous Kid. That was really fun to watch, and I believe the people on chat as well is just going crazy. They know that Famous Kid is just having full control of the matchup, and I definitely agree. He was getting so much value from his worth kicks compared to Moogie in game number 1. Now game 2, again, it is going to be a different composition for sure. We do see Barbarian Bryros being used here to try and cycle his way through. I think Famous Kid doesn't want him in the pool. Likewise coming from Moogie as well with the Skeletons. But seems like we are going to see, a very interesting matchup. So it's going to be heroes versus heroes.
It is, and this Golden Knight might just come in clutch at the end of the day, but we'll find out what's going to happen with the Skeleton King. But, of course, the Baby Dragon. Now, we do have a Fisherman this time around, I do believe. So, I think this makes it clear that Moogie really likes that King Tower activation.
Yeah, I think he's going to get it as well. And this is actually going to benefit a lot just because of the composition that is going to be played with Famous Kid, right? He is going to be playing a little bit more structural damage, but the Golden Knight is great to deal with Skeleton Kings, but at the same time, oh my goodness, the Electro Giant versus the Royal Giant matchup, they are going to be trading towers for a rush comm, and I'm not exactly sure how they're gonna do this. Fisherman comes in, it is gonna mess up the initial hook, so the Electro Giant is gonna slip through, and they are gonna trade towers left and right. However, Famous Kid will have a little bit more value right from the get-go. Well done with the tornado coming from Famous Kid.
But there's the King Tower activation, but is that going to be worth it? I don't think so, because there's still a lot of work that Moogie has to do with the right tower, and the defense as well is looking pretty solid with that cage, right? So it's not going to be easy to break through.
Oh, the Golden Knight is just so smart because the Skeletons can't exactly build a swarm because it is going to be like 2 mana elixir spell activation of Golden Knight. He's going to get all the free value compared to back then where you use a bandit to deal with these kind of scenarios. The Goblin Cage as well to try and stall things down for the Royal Giant is just brilliant. You get a built-in structure, you take a couple chip damage and get a minion to deal with the Royal Giant. So even though Moogie is trading fairly okay, but all in all, if they drag this on to overtime, he is still losing out a lot because the Electro Giant definitely caught him off guard.
I do believe Moogie has sort of given up the way he's been playing and the emotes that we saw, but he's still...
Oh no, big tornado! That is so big coming from Famous Kid as well, and just like this, I think it might be over. Great Fisherman coming from the Electro Giant to stall things up, but I don't think he can deal with the red. The Golden Knight is getting so much value. He's getting 2 units out of it and still gonna get chip damage. But now Fireball comes in down towards the last 20 seconds there. It seems like we are gonna be going into his overtime potentially, unless Famous Kid has something to say. It seems like that's not going to be the case here. We're down towards the final 10 seconds. He needs 1 fireball on towards the right side of the turret to actually get value. And that's going to be the last desperation coming from Moogie. Is he going to prolong it? Yes, he will! Oh, yes, we are going to overtime as well. But because of that, he doesn't have the elixirs to deal with the Electro Giant. Such a smart play coming from Famous Kid. Oh my goodness.
Oh my lord. That shows nerves of Seal and such
hands
profound
off!
knowledge of the
Hands
game.
off, Famous Kid! Oh, game over!
Oh, the sheer confidence is obnoxious. At this point, obviously, as a viewer, if you're supporting Moogie and you really like to watch Moogie, you're his fan, it is a little hurtful to see this, but at the same time, Famous Kid, this time around, they're just completely outclassing Moogie and coming out on top. But at the same time, the nerves of Seal at the end, he knew the tower is going to go away, but he's going to have that elixir advantage where Moogie will not be able to hold his line.
Yeah, well done coming in from Famous Kid as well. He's got, representing Singapore. He and coming into the close qualifiers as well. Not showing his cards, giving us element of surprise. We didn't see a lot of E-Giants. Mamba, you talked about it, and he brought it up, and oh my god, that was so hard to deal with. And I'm not gonna lie, Moogie was very smart. 2 games in a row, he tried to go for King Tower activations, but Famous Kid is just so much smarter when it comes to this kind of plays. And I really like how he was able to punish all the decisions coming from Moogie with his patience, and it's really, really nice. He got so much value. So for those guys watching at home, in case you missed out in the action in the second series, let's take a look at the highlights on how Famous Kid and Moogie played, because that was a very, very insane match, especially coming from both Game 1 as well as Game 2.
The one thing I immediately noticed, right, is Famous Kid did not wait to make his first move. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he was really confident with the deck that he had as well, and knew exactly what was going to go down in the game. At the same time, sure, the first game was a bit, I would say it was not as dominant for Famous Kid, but he did seem very, very confident in the way he played.
Yeah, and it was so close in game number 1. The only value difference was that Moogie made a mistake by setting up the Kick Tower activation, which get an extra hit with the firecrackers coming in from Famous Kid. And what they did was they just kept mirroring each other to a point that Famous Kid was able to find an opportunity to get big values on that Earthquake in game number 1. Game 2, however, was a complete different story where the Golden Knight was a big counter towards Skeleton King. Likewise, coming from E-Giant, the Royal Giant can't exactly do too much, and he does have the Goblin Cage, which is what, 4 elixir dealing with the Royal Giant. That's so much value coming from that, and that was pretty much I would say an outdraft coming from Moogie. More like the comp just didn't exactly help him at all. So I think E-Giant is still going to be a big force we're reckoned with coming from Famous Kid, and well done coming from him, because him making the choice to ban off the Lava Hound, knowing that his deck can't exactly deal with Aerial a lot, and he took advantage that he knows that Golden Knight can mess up Skeleton King Kong. He's just taking advantage of that. It's just genius coming from Famous Kid in terms of
Oh,
drafts.
absolutely, absolutely. But here's the thing: you think the Fisherman had any impact that way? Because I do understand Moogie wanted to get that King Tower activation, right? You can force it with the Golden Hand, which is I do believe a little more difficult to do, right? But if you place your skeletons right, if you have because it can go through 10 times, right? So you could potentially still get one, but it's not that easy.
Yeah, I think when it comes to King Tower activation, it's always better to have one in terms of defense. But when it comes to playing against swarms, you need to have units to be able to kite them as much as they can. So oftentimes, I think game one was a perfect example of how you kite units towards the down middle top side, where you have a Tesla just luring them all the way towards the middle, and you get value from damage coming from the left and the right tower alongside with King Tower. That's the best ideal situation. But for game number 2, that didn't exactly happen, because if you are going all in with the E-Giant, it's not likely easy to be kite unless you go for like a mortar comp with skeletons and fire spirit, drag it as long as possible, which unfortunately did not happen for them. But enough said as well. Let's take a look at what the schedule is in case you are just tuning in. I know you guys are excited to see more coming from Famous Kid. We have still the top 16 to proceed, but as of yet, this is going to be the schedule coming in, with Venom taking the first series of today to be the 2-0 against Mega Bavia, and Famous Kid taking a 2-0 against Moogie. The next match is going to be Noisy Boy versus Yuki at Loose.
Noisy Boy and Yuki lose. Now, here's the thing, right? Again, Noisy Boy definitely comes in as a favorite because he has a lot of experience. He has played a couple of events in the past where, well, at least call it a global stage or a regional stage, doesn't matter, but definitely has a lot of experience and confidence coming in. But then again, the rest of the matches, we'll get to them eventually. But let's talk about the cards that they really like to play right now. AQ is something that we've been talking about. Noisy Boy does like to play Archer Queen a lot. We have the Knight, the Zappies, and the Fisherman. Again, Fisherman did not see in the first game. As a matter of fact, the first quote unquote 3 games, right? If you take each match individually. But you think it's something Noisy Boy might do today?
It might happen, but considering that 2 series, Archer Queen being banned regardless of what the situation here, and I feel like that is going to be a tricky situation. But as of now, we still see Famous Boy coming from Singapore. Yuki at loss is also going to be represented for it from Singapore. So it is going to be a battle between Southeast Asia this match here, where Indonesia is going to go out Singapore, where Noisy Boy representing Indonesia. And if we do see the Archer Queen being played as well, it is going to be a surprise factor as well. Getting that spell activation clutch is going to be very important in dealing with Swarm. So hopefully we will actually see it. But as of now, I think it is most likely going to be bad. Like 2 games in a row, the players just don't want to deal with Archer Queens. It's just so strong in the current meta, especially in a meta of Swarms, you know?
I do believe, that is definitely going to be the case, right? Dealing with swarms is very annoying, number one, and at the same time you mentioned it is the current meta, but I definitely do want to see some off-meta picks, because why not? I like chaos. At the end of the day, you do get a good matchup, but at the same time, there's a lot of chaos that might happen as well. But nonetheless, let's move on to the next matchup, which is going to be Noisy Boy and You Can't Lose, and all right, the bomb battle coming in immediately.
Yep, seems like it is going to be them trying to cycle through their units. It seems like miners are going to be banned, likewise coming in from the Skeleton Bomber. So miners is something that Yuki loves playing a lot. In yesterday's game, he did show a lot of miners as well as Goblin Drill. So he is accustomed to playing this kind of rat strategy coming from Noisy Boy. So he's definitely done his research. However, I'm not exactly sure whether or not the Archer Queen is going to be played, but maybe because I think they're not having high enough king levels to actually get the Archer Queen or even Golden Knight. So that is going to be a little bit of a downside. But as of yet, Yuki at lows, he does have a little bit of an advantage in terms of chip damage right now. But the Lava Hound comes in. How will you do with it?
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out what the response is over here, because You Can't Lose definitely is taking a bit of damage, but he's also... Oh, the Tornado comes in. Now, this is where you can cut units away, but... Wait a minute. Here's the thing, right? I do believe that Noisy Boy actually has the upper hand right now with regards to the deck so far.
Yeah, it seems like he does have a little bit of value as well. He was able to benefit from the Tornado, knowing that the Green Dragon was actually focusing on the Lava Hound. So he was able to sneak the balloon on the sides as well, getting a little bit more value out of it. So that was very, very smart, considering that Yuki at loss used a very, very big spell to actually deal with it. So So it is going to be a Lava Hound comp coming from Nosy Boy, and I don't think Yuki at loss is out of it yet. He is going to be playing very defensively and reactively for this next composition, but if he's able to defend against the Lava Hound very quickly, he's going to be able to turn the tides very quickly with his Swarm, especially with the Witch as well.
Oh, absolutely. I do believe that Yuki is waiting for the end game to come in, because that is when his deck might just start he might just start making the most of it, being able to cycle to it quicker, right? But at the same time, the MK coming finally, this is something we've talked about so much that we've not been seeing it.
E-Giant coming in from Yuki at loss, and this is the overtime that we need as well. 2x Elixir benefits the most. This is something that Noisy Boy, I think, is going to be having a little bit more struggle to actually deal with it. And look at how much damage he's getting value of this. So he is going to get a little bit more value from this, but now Yuki at loss, he's got a pretty healthy elixir as well. He can actually deal with the Lava Hound, and it's going to be a returning of favors coming from Noisy Boy, and I don't think he can do too much, and E-Giant is going to stop them in his tracks, and just like that, he is going to be able to turn the tides against Noisy Boy unless he throws a Doomstone. Yes, he will get it, so he is going to be fine for now, I guess.
I think he'll be fine for now, but I think I just miscalled miscalled Dark Prince MK. But nonetheless, we do have the cage going down again now. Here's the question: sudden death, and a lot of damage has been done, but I still do believe Yuki is still in the game. But this is where it starts getting interesting, because for even now, right, even at this point, they're looking very, very close.
Oh no, Yuki, he tried to go for the Tornado Green Dragon clean up, but one of the guys actually managed to sneak through and messed up the combo, and because of this, Noisy Boy is still up ahead. So it's going to be 50-50 trades for now, as we do see the Barbarians being swamped in, coming from Noisy Boy to deal with all this swarm, and another swarm coming in, but unfortunately Green Dragon a little bit late coming from Yuki at loss to actually clear it out. So that is still going to be value coming in from Noisy Boy to deal with this. And it seems like Yuki at loss is struggling in this mishaps.
He is, and I believe now from this point, it's probably Noisy Boy's game, because he does have Zap, he does have the Fireball as well at the same time, which he can use eventually to dish out more damage, right? Because at the end of the day, if he does manage to stay alive for that long, the tower HP is not high enough.
Oh my goodness, that is a big commitment coming in for Yuki at loss. Big big lightning coming in, but it's not enough to deal with the Lava Hound. So a nice attempt coming from Yuki at loss to play, but well done coming from Noisy Boy with that composition. So that is a very, very big outplay coming from him as well. A couple of mistakes coming from Noisy Boy, but it was a very necessary one for him, considering the situations he's in. He doesn't have exactly the best tools to deal with the Lava Hound, but I think based on his situation here, he could have tried and delayed a little bit more, maybe even get a couple of King Tower activation. And I think when it comes to like situations, right, Mamba? First two series, we saw a lot of King Tower activation coming from Moogie. For this game, I felt like Yuki needed the King Tower activation, and it was extremely difficult to do it with the Tornado. But if he managed to pull it off, it would be a much better defense compared to what we just saw.
Well, absolutely. You're bang on point with that one, because the defense did not look that strong, but at the same time, we did see some really good stats coming, especially with the Zap and the Fireball at the end of the day, right? Towards the end game, use it to perfection, cycle to it really quickly, and make sure you were dishing out damage, especially when the buildings were being deployed and dishing out damage. So that was actually brilliant to watch.
Yeah, that was really nice here. And I'm hoping to see whether or not they can adapt for game number 2, because now we're going to be jumping straight into game number 2 of the match. And will Yuki be able to bounce back? Because Noisy Boy is one game ahead as of yet.
He is one game ahead, but we do have the Zappies coming in, and I mean, sure, the Valkyrie is probably going to be able to stop it, but I do believe that Noisy wants to try and build up initial pressure, but it's not going to be easy. Whoa, okay then.
Yeah, seems like Yuki at loss. He is going to get in and go for his comfort picks here, going for miners as well as Rocket Tesla. So this seems like we are going to see a little bit of an interesting variation, because he doesn't have the miners for himself. He does have the Goblin Drill instead. So I don't think he's going to be able to sneak his way through. But now a big arrow coming from Noisy Boy. So that means it is going to be able to clear off some of the units there. But Yuki at loss is not over yet, I guess.
He's definitely not even close to being over yet. But I do like the Goblin Drill that came in and pressuring the right tower, right? But at the end of the day, that the timing needs to be perfect. The miner is not available, but, well, you do have the Goblin Drill. But one thing that I really like, right, is that the cycle so far, we've seen Yuki lose being able to cycle really quickly because of the Fire Spirit and the Wall Breaker.
Yeah, this is something that he's very comfortable at playing, considering that he did win his top 32 match by playing chip damage with miners as well as Goblin Drill. So he's doing a very similar comp from yesterday, but instead of the miner, he replaced it with a little bit more of a defensive one with Dart Goblins as well as a Valkyrie to actually deal with it. So I like the variation, but as of yet, I think Noisy Boy is going to struggle because I'm pretty sure that Yuki at lost, he is going to continue with his chip damage and go full defense with this tower as well.
I wouldn't be too sure about that, honestly. I mean, I do see Noisy Boy trying to strike back, right? And dishing out so much damage in such a short span. But I do believe it's still possible for Yuki to try and just keep up with the momentum that he's had, especially once the elixir starts rolling up really quickly.
Yeah, he knows, Noisy Boy knows that his graveyard as well as skeletons, as long as it builds up a big ramp of swarms, Yuki at lost doesn't have a good way to deal with it here. He's forced to use Dart Goblins as well as Valkyrie, but it's not the perfect solution because eventually there are going to be some skeletons that get a little bit more value. Look at the graveyard coming in as well. He's going to be able to get value from the left side as well. He placed it on the right side intentionally to split off the Valkyrie so that the Valkyrie can't completely clear off the graveyard. So that was very smart adaptations coming from Noisy Boy.
Oh, absolutely. Showing us, literally showing us why he has so many achievements behind him, right? And why is he the favorite coming into this matchup and dishing out so much damage. So eventually, he does get the upper hand, and that shows nerves. I've seen a lot of patience in the game.
Yeah, beautiful adaptations from him, Noisy Boy. Like, he knew that Yuki is trying to cheese his way in this strategy. It worked initially the first cycle, but the second cycle, he adapted very quickly. And now with the fireball on top on the Dart Goblin, 4 structure damage, that is so much value. Goblin Drill comes in, that's going to be a significant damage, but the Valkyrie immediately to respond to it, knowing that that is going to be cheese coming from Yuki. He is going to struggle a little bit more, but as of yet, Yuki is not over yet. He can return the favor.
He could, but I don't see it happening, to be honest, because he can always cycle through the arrows. They have the fireball as well. And at the end of the day, it's just a matter of time. But once the overtime ends and the towers are still standing, he doesn't have any face speed.
The Dart Goblin needs to survive all these hordes, and Noisy Boy just making sure that it doesn't come on live is pretty much clutch, because the only thing can deal with the graveyard here is pretty much the Dart Goblin as well as Valkyrie, and if he doesn't have that in cycle, game might be over. It seems like Noisy Boy, he knows he's got it in the back, he shouts good game. I think it's over for him.
Oh, absolutely. The moment the first graveyard came up and the amount of damage that he dished in such a short time, right? It's probably when it was over for him, but then again, it's not over until it's over finally. But the fireball so close, 4 HP remaining, but it's not going to win out. But I believe that the arrows are going to do the job.
Oh, well done. Noisy Boy with a fist pump right there, saying that, hey, I got this. Well done indeed. He was able to adapt with the cheese coming from Yuki, but nevertheless, good homework being done coming from Noisy Boy, because we did see Yuki kind of play that in yesterday's games and all his replays as well. Miner was a very important factor for him to parry with the Goblin Drill. Unfortunately, did not happen. So if the player, even for me, I'm a caster, I'm not even playing, and I'm able to find out that this is the strategy, very nicely done. So it's just a little bit outplay on the homework part, where Noisy Boy was able to adapt a little bit more from Yuki. So I think Yuki needs it's back to the drawing board for him. He needs to adapt towards a different playstyle more, I guess.
Probably, but Noisy was absolutely outclassing him towards the end, right? Because initially it did seem like Yuki might have a bit of an upper hand, especially with the Goblin Drill going in, right? But here's the thing. Noisy just came out on top.
Yeah, I guess, it's just really smart coming from him. That's the reason why he has that's why playing in competition is very important, right? You need to have more experience. You need to adapt on situations on the fly, even though things don't go out of hand. So that's one thing that Noisy Boy has the upper hand against Yuki, was adapting. So we saw a little bit of mistakes coming from Yuki in game number 1, which we will jump into the highlights as well. Let's jump into it really quickly as well to tell you a couple of mistakes that he made where Noisy Boy was able to capitalize a little bit more in terms of overall gameplay, right? So this first match here, we know that for a fact that Yuki needs to play a little bit more defensively, but he could not deal with the rush coming from the balloons as well. Lovehound, this is a comp which is really, really strong during overtime, where the elixirs are always going to be able to benefit. For him, he needed a little bit more structural damage. In terms of aerial combat warfare, Dot Goblins is going to be an important factor. King Tower activation is going to help him a little bit more. But game number 3, he was able to win his composition by surprising Nosy Boy in early stage with the Goblin Drill, but it just didn't exactly work out because he needed another one to tank the Goblin Drill's damage so he can get a little bit more chip damage, which was the miner based on his comp, which unfortunately was banned out from Noisy Boy. So very, very good adaptations coming from him.
Wow, very good adaptation, really good foresight as well. At the same time, it got me as well, right? The first Goblin Drill that actually went in had me by surprise, and I did believe that Yuki might just have the upper hand over here, but that was not the case. And I keep on going back to the same play again and again and again because it was so impactful in such a short time with the graveyard, dishing out damage, a perfect combo, and really good foresight.
Yeah, well done indeed. So I'm looking forward to see how he is going to be able to adapt in the top 8. But as of yet, we are going to be taking a very, very short break for the next matchup for you guys are going to be watching. And I'm looking forward to see how it goes. But all in all, we've seen a lot of animations. We've seen E-Giants, we've seen Skeleton Kings. We haven't seen Archer Queens being played yet, which unfortunately wasn't banned in the previous game, but not used as well. So it's a little bit unfortunate for that end.
Not just unfortunate, right? At the same time, we've been talking about off-meta picks. While AQ is really popular because you've been saying, right, it is the swarm meta, but we've not seen that being used that often, even with everything that's going on. But ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. We are going to take a small breather, but we will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fanfury Open Championship, sponsored by Fanfury. I am Mamba Senior. Alongside me is Icy Baby, and we've seen some amazing matches in the first half. Wouldn't even call it the first half, I would probably call it the first quarter. But wonderful matches.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing even more matches to come as well, and I'm looking forward to see what excitement and strategies are going to be bringing to the table, especially coming from Clash Royale itself. The community itself, they have brought a lot of value in terms of gameplay overall in general, and so far, first 3 games, we've saw a lot of adaptations as well as variations. Lava Hound has been very popular, often picked or banned as well in all the 3 games that we've watched so far here in the top 16. So maybe we are going to be expecting a little bit more later on. But before that, in case you guys are just tuning in, we are going to be taking a look into the brackets and so far how the players has progressed so far in the top 16. And this is going to be the brackets as of yet for the Fanfury Open Championship. As you can see, Venom, he is going to be the first one to play as well with 2-0. Famous Quid early on as well, 2-0 against Moogie. And then Noisy Boy getting 2-0 against Yuki at loss. That puts them in the first quarterfinals. We are going to be having Jess and Messi, unfortunately not going to be happening just because there is going to be a forfeit coming from Messi. So that means the first set of quarterfinals is already on its way. The first 4 players is going to be Venom, Famous Kid, as well as Noisy Boy, and just guaranteed top 8 and a chunk of the prize pool. And the next matchup, I know you guys are super excited for this matchup. It is going to be Sir Smoke a Lot representing India going up against Mish. He is going to be representing Pakistan. So it is going to be an India versus Pakistan matchup coming up. And this is going to be a very intense one, especially coming from the region as well.
Absolutely, but let's talk about the schedule for a bit. Yeah, we did have 2-0 matches coming up with us, and of course Jess is moving on because he was promoted. But Sir Smoke and Mish, now this is a matchup that everybody's been waiting for, especially me, right? Because I know the history that Sir Smoke brings. I know the amount of experience that he brings. He's won a lot of competitions in India, online, everywhere. He's been super consistent throughout the years. So it is going to be a very interesting match to watch. But the question is, can Mish hold up, and can Mish strike back? Because there's going to be a lot of emotions as well for all the viewers present over here. But then again, we're just hoping for an exciting matchup. We do have DK going up against No Unknown DVJ versus Sammy YT. Then we have Sukar and Mohsin. Again, I'm really excited to watch because yesterday I did see a lot of split lane pushes, which we've not seen so far. Venom and Famous Kid and Noisy Boy and Jess at the end. So yeah, no, I'm pretty excited, I see.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for Mohsin as well, representing Malaysia from where I'm from. I hope that the split pressure is going to be the meta. And it's oftentimes something that I really like to do in my own games as well, playing split pressure. Unfortunately, in low ranks, it's the only thing you got to do. But when it comes to high ranks, it's all about displacements. It's all about king activation. It's all about using those 1 million costs to lure them and delay the inevitable push. But what's more surprising for me is I've not synced a single game of Magic Knight at all, which is very unfortunate. But now, without further ado, jumping straight into the next game here, it is going to be Sir Smoke a Lot versus Mish, your favorite matchup right now here, Mamba.
Oh, absolutely. From this point on, it is going to be all firecrackers all around, but we do have the drill coming up real quick, which are going to be followed by the wall breakers, but the cage coming up, but still a lot of damage being dished out. Bob Battle coming in to counter it, but is this going to be enough? But we do have the Goblin Dots. Fireball, a lot of damage being dished out, but the Tornado not doing enough, at least not as much as you would have wanted it to do, but the Fire Spirit to cycle through the deck really quickly, and Ice Wiz.
Ice Wizard in compensation for the E-Wizard instead. Seems like he wants to get a little bit more value in terms of the Elixir, but seems like he is going to lose a lot in terms of chip damage. Valkyrie is going to be A-okay. So as of now, Mish, he does have the upper hand. Whereas even though Sir Smoke a Lot, he knows that Mish plays a very similar playstyle to Yuki at loss. Without the miners, it seems like he is going to... I don't know, it seems like he is getting a little bit of upper hand in terms of composition and playstyle. So Sir Smoke a Lot, he made a mess up with the Tornado, did not get value out of it because of the Fireball.
Oh, absolutely did not get value out of it. Even that baby jacket, right, pushing in so deep, not getting a lot of value out of it, but the Valkyrie is going to go in. Now the Goblin Cage is going to bring in value eventually once the Goblin does come out, but the question is, does he have enough for a counter push? No, he does not. As a matter of fact, Mish, obviously with the Elixir advantage, is going to come on top again, cycling through with that Fire Spirit and the Goblin Drill dishing out so much damage. This is unreal.
Yep, Tornado being used defensively as well with the Ice Wizard to actually deal with the composition. It seems like they are still keeping 2 cards coming from both Smoke a lot as well as Mish as well, as they are going to be going towards overtime, and I'm most probably going to see it. But as of now, Mish is doing a fantastic job going for chip damage with the Goblin Drill, whereas Sir Smoke a lot hasn't been able to do too much with it, especially with that mess up early on against the Fireball.
This is unbelievable. Honestly, this is unreal. Absolutely unreal. But we've still not seen 2 cards which are remaining for Sir Smoke. The question is, what are they? Is this going to be some pocket stat? I don't know. But for now, definitely Mish has the upper hand.
Oh, big poison show up coming from Sir Smoke a lot. It's so much value out of this, but the Goblin Jew still managing to stick through, and along with the Ball Breaker as well, seems like it's not going to get an advantage as well as the barrel comes in to clear it out. So that was very, very unfortunate. But here comes another Tornado, catches the Thought Goblin, a little bit more value, but it seems like Mish does have this in the back. Full control coming for him, as Sir Smoke a lot is still struggling to deal with his Goblin Drill.
Absolute masterclass coming in from Mish, and the way he's played is unbelievable. Now, the sheer confidence. Sir Smoke is looking clueless, and this is the same player which is arguably the best player in India right now, so I'm not sure what went wrong. Was it a wrong read? Was it the wrong deck? Was it just nerves? Couldn't be nerves. Honestly, it cannot be nerves.
Yep, it comes down to overtime as well. So Smoke still struggling a lot with this Goblin Drill to deal with here. Eventually, we'll still get a couple of chip damage across, but the Laser Tower is going to be able to defend against high monitor. Finally revealing the Graveyard here. Seems like Sir Smoke, he is going to go for the Poison Graveyard composition. And is he going to use it now? It seems like it's not. Finally pops in the last second as well, trying to delay and chip away the Dark Goblin and get structural, but I don't think he's going to be able to do too much. Ice Wizard comes in, but once again, another Goblin Drill with the Valkyrie. It is going to be free damage. Nope, he is going to be fine for now. So, Sir Smoke, this is where he excels the most, because we are going to go for overtime and towards sudden death. This is where he picks up, because the Graveyard Poison composition will benefit in 3x Elixir, and Mish needs to figure a way to deal with this right now.
He definitely needs to figure out a way. The Valkyrie is not going to be able to do a lot, but at the same time, the Fireball coming in, the Drill going in, but the Goblin Cage not being able to take away all the damage that he needed to. But at the same time, the Power Barrel going in, the Inferno Tower coming up. He does have the Poison and the Graveyard, but does he have enough is the question. The Drill coming in for a counter push. Is it going to be enough? The Valk coming in to counter it. Is it going to be enough is the question.
Oh my goodness, he just can't get the Poison Graveyard composition off, and it's understandable because he needs to respond to the Goblin Drill, and because of this, he's not getting a little bit more structural damage, and once again, the Drill comes in. It's gonna annoy the heck out of him. This might be game for him if Sir Smoke doesn't get this cycle in true, and he needs to get a full combo, but it's 9 elixir cost, and I like how Mish is just continuing this pressure, not giving it to him with the Graveyard Poison, but it seems like it is going to be an all-in push as well coming from Mish. Fireball on towards the structure as well. It's down towards 156, but eventually won't get it with the final Goblins, and Mish, what an outplay coming in from that game. Well done indeed.
Mish showing a lot of composure, but at the same time, I do believe that was a massive misplay from Sir Smoke for 2 reasons. One, obviously, not being able to use a comp that he needed to use it towards the end. I mean, he had to wait until the end, right? The last 2 cards. I mean, again, Poison and Graveyard combo is really effective, but it's also really expensive. Again, the average elixir on Sir Smoke, I believe, was higher, and Mish was able to cycle through much quicker. But at the same time, I believe Smoke waited way too long to try and go for the push that he actually had to go through. Second was the Goblin Cage. I'm not quite sure what the idea was with the Goblin Cage being in the center while you do know that Drill is coming up.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? The Goblin Cage is oftentimes used to deal with high value priorities, right? Like Royal Hogs or Hog Rider, or even Ram Riders as well as the battalion as well. So it's a way to deal with it, considering that you are going to be going into this comp unknown, right? So the Goblin Cage does have value when it comes to dealing with giants as well. Anything that grows in for structural aggro is going to benefit, but the comp coming in from him just didn't exactly happen, because if you think about it, Mish was playing a comp where he is going to be playing a little bit of a different version compared to Yuki, but he played it really well, because this is a matchup that benefits him, right? Chip damage, going for backlines is something that he benefits the most. Poison and Graveyard does exactly the same, but like you said as well, high cost value, and it only excels at 2x or 3x. So if that game was dragged a little bit longer, or if Sir Samola had a little bit more health, he could have turned the tides against Yuki, but Yuki just, sorry, not Yuki, Mish just kept up with the pressure, with his Goblin Drill, just made it work for them. So very nicely done coming from him.
If I don't know if we could just have the stat, right? If magically I could just pull out the stat from the air of how many times that card was used, we would all be surprised, because he kept on chipping away with the Goblin Drill. And it's so simple but yet so effective. A lot of times you can come up with complicated stats. You can have cheese stats, you can have pocket stats, you can come up with all the things in the world. But what is going to take the game away from you is probably the basics.
Yeah, I guess if you put it that way as well. And I like how I think if sorry, what was I thinking about? Okay, if Sir Smoke plays the same composition again against Mish, and hoping that Mish might not be playing the same composition, he would stand a better chance compared to a very Retty style. So considering that Minor is has been banned off from Sir Smoke a lot, he knows for a fact that Mish is gonna be liking this kind of composition, and I believe his deck can't exactly deal with backline aggros or etc. So not many decks can actually deal with it. Even Archer Queen struggle against this kind of compositions as well. Fire Spirits are amazing in getting a little bit more value out of this kind of situations. Same goes for Shield Skeletons, which gets you a little bit more value. But those kind of composition means that you are going to be forced to play card cannons or even Mortar, Mortar into as a composition, which is extremely risky and high skill to actually pull off, especially in the current stages as well. So I feel like he just doesn't want to take a risk, but worst comes to worst, if he's forced to do it, it's gonna be a little bit of a fun factor. But for me, so far, out of all the matches I've seen in yesterday's close qualifiers, DVJ is one of the very few that plays it like that.
Fair enough. But again, going back to this one, right? I do believe this has to be by far the most exciting match we've seen the entire day, because it was a constant back and forth, and we did expect Sir Smoke to make a comeback. He did not have enough time. And then again, the third mess up was that he waited too long. The timing was not perfect. But I do believe he might be able to read into what went wrong for him and try and come up with a better strategy. He's not going to give up that easy, because you don't become the best player in a region without having that temperament and without having that composure and the confidence in your abilities. Because if you let that go, if you let that slide, anybody's going to be able to walk all over you. And I do believe, at least I do have a reason to believe, that Sir Smoke is not going to allow that.
Yeah, I think we are going to be expecting maybe an Archer Queen comp or maybe even a Skeleton King comp coming from Sir Smoke a lot. And when that thing comes into play, he is going to have a pretty fun time against Mish if that actually happens, because that was something that he did not expect as well, considering that the Fireball was able to get so much value coming from Mish as well, and he was able to benefit it time and time again, and especially when it comes to dealing a Valkyrie, right? So what is very, very underrated about a Fireball is not about the damage and clear speed, it's the knockback effect, right? He always sets it up with the Goblin Drill and the Fireball to push the Valkyrie away, so that the Goblin Drill's Goblin is able to draw aggro onto the building rather to the Valkyrie to be killed off. So that was a very, very minuscule play from him, but it was what made the difference in his win there. So very, very crucial detail, but it worked out in Mish's favor. So well done coming from him.
Oh, absolutely. Again, it's a game of very small margins. It might look like, you can have a mistake or two and you can work with it. It's not the case. One tile to the left, one tile to the right, one tile on top, or maybe one tile a little too close to your tower can make all the difference in the world. And we've seen that. We've seen it in the last game. King Tower activation, good strat if executed well and if you have the troops to support it. But that was not the case. So we've seen all kinds of stats come in, but what we really want to see is obviously something around MK and something around AQ.
Yeah, and I don't know why we haven't seen. I've not seen a single one, which is weird for me. That considering that Swarm meta against this, it's great against landed units. It's terrible against air units. Like against level hounds, it's just absolute garbage. But we have seen players and teams use Royal Delivery. It's a very, very underrated card, which not many players do play. Royal Delivery is such an underrated card, but it deals well against air swarms or landed swarms as well. It's just underrated, unfortunately. But of course,
and it works really well against Brit spams as well.
Yeah, it is. Definitely. But now I'm a little bit curious here how Sir Smoke is going to make a comeback, right? He is After all, he does have achievements in previous history where he is ESL India Premiership Winter and Fall first place winner, alongside with Penta Amateur League second place winner, alongside with Super Diwali 2021 second place winner. So he does have a lot of achievements coming for him. Whereas Mish, he is under the radar. So I'm surprised that we have seen underdog victory so far. One coming from Venom, now coming in by Mish. If he gets another win, this is a big upset so far in this entire tournament.
It almost reminds me that viewers do like an underdog story more than they like a story of domination, and it's something that goes across all the sports. It could be esports, it could be traditional sports. Talk about cricket, Formula One, FIFA, anything. But at the end of the day, everybody loves a good storyline. But you know what? Everybody loves more a redemption arc. Who knows? Sir Smoke might definitely have a couple of people rallying behind him. And we might see a comeback. I do sense a comeback. I do have this gut feeling that Sir Smoke might be able to come back because he knew halfway through the game, he knew that he messed up. But at the same time, you don't win tournaments, you don't win events without having that will to fight and make a comeback.
Yeah, it's understandable why they don't exactly want to take the risk, right? Like, it's all about adaptations when it comes to best of threes, because yesterday in close qualifiers, everything was best of ones, right? Sorry, it was still best of threes. Yeah, sorry. It was still best of threes. So apologies about that. But before that, everything was like best of one. The more wins you get, everything wants to be rushed. So you have to play like a speedy call. You have to go in quick finish also. We saw a lot of Hawk Riders by then. But now, in this particular situation, it's more like taking your wins and learning what kind of adaptations we can play. Right now, the one-up from game one is that Mish was able to come out on top, is that he was able to take advantage of the Goblin Drill and the knockback effect coming from the Fireball, whereas coming from Sir Smoke-A-Lot, he was hoping that he was able to get off his graveyard poison composition. And this two big difference in terms of winning the matchup was that one is very low efficient, it's long, it's draggy, it's all about chip damage. One is just going for an all-in push, whereas it costs you 9 elixirs to pull off. So very risky attempt, but he needs to figure a way to actually ramp up some elixirs, because 2x, 3x, you are going to be giving up so much early pressure. And oftentimes, I think back then in the days here, Elixir Collector was a very, very popular thing. But now it's just so expensive to play. It's so risky to play an Elixir Collector with Poison and Graveyard, which is impossible to pull off based on the
might as well just play with 3 cards then. But no, here's a question, right? What I cannot seem to understand, and this could definitely be the difference in the skill that obviously us as casters have versus professional players, but what I still don't understand is why did the poison not come into the picture earlier in the game?
That's the thing, right? He actually okay, so the idea was that he actually had the tornado being played off early on, if I do remember correctly. So when he used the tornado, he was hoping that the green dragon was going to get a little bit more value for it. But what actually happened was that he popped the tornado close enough for the fireball, where the fireball is able to chip enough damage to actually clear him off with the towers rather than benefiting with from it. So it's just very, very unfortunate for Smoke-A-Lot in that first rotation. So I agree, if you go for the poison is great, but you're overcommitting for a fight because you've already used a tornado.
Absolutely, and Sir Smoke definitely looking a little fidgety right there with the response that he's trying to build up, but Mish at the same time is going to be patient. He does not want to go in and make the first move, so it's definitely a game of patience at this point. And I believe today this is the longest we've been without the first move coming up.
Yeah, this is very important for Sir Smoke-A-Lot, right? So they need to wait it out, and I think Sir Smoke-A-Lot, he excels in towards 2x or 3x. So the moment they drag into the later stage game, that is where they excel. So if you can drop a element of surprise or a surprise factor right from the get-go, it is going to give you the upper hand. And he understands that he cannot underestimate Mish from game number 1, because Mish played it super, super well. And look at this, this is going evils all the way through. And
I love this. I love the anticipation. I love the tension that is coming up in this match.
They just want to play overtime, man. They just want to play overtime. I think both teams... Sorry, what?
I was saying, does this mean they're both playing really heavy decks?
Yeah, they might be playing a very rampy composition where they have high elixir volume. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Lava Golem being played, maybe even E-Dragon, bro. maybe even E-Dragon. Yeah, I'm right. Maybe even E-Dragon. Maybe even E-Giant on top of it all. MK as is gonna be about a game of waiting as well, because you need a big swarm to benefit from the MK. So I think this is happening, but both players, what is this, 40 elixirs lead? Okay, it's overtime now, so it's 2x. Okay, finally here it comes. The Bomber Skeleton comes in. All right.
So we did have to wait, but the flying machine coming in as a counter, which is Supreme the Fisherman. All right, then going all out with all the elixir. He has Zappies coming in clutch as well, but look at that.
Oh, no.
Oh my god, lightning strike. That's not going to be pretty.
Oh, this is a very rampy composition coming from Sir Smoke a lot. So it looks like it's not going to be Electro Giants, but it is going to be Bombers as well as Royal Giants instead, to actually compensate for an E-Giant, which costs 8 elixirs. So 6 and 6 is still a cheaper efficient, but it will only work in towards overtime. But the lightnings coming in from Mishi is just getting so much value out of this as well. And it's not happened once now, it's happened twice in a row. One with the fireball from game 1, and now with the lightnings coming in from game 2. However, Sir Smoke still winning in the siege chart because of the 6-6 push with the Royal Giant. So I don't know. So this is a very weird composition, but it seems like the ramp from Sir Smoke is just a little bit bigger compared to Mish right now.
Oh my goodness, no, Sir Smoke definitely came in prepared. The Zappy's working out as well. The Earthquake and the Lock at the end is going to be able to chip away, so this is definitely looking like Sir Smoke's game, unless there is a massive mistake coming up. But the Flying Machine not being able to give the amount of value that it needed. Of course, not a heavy counter, but so much tank, he's going to go for it. He is going to go for it, does not want to wait. He can cycle with the Earthquake and the Lock coming up, and this is definitely Sir Smoke's game.
Disgusting to watch. The ramps coming in is just phenomenal, and on top of it all, right now Mishi is struggling to deal with all the Zappies. Like, the Zappy is getting so much value with this kind of ramp compositions, which oftentimes is very easy to work with, but because of the ramp coming in, even with the Goblin Cage, it's just not enough. The MK is not benefiting from the Zappies as all because of the Royal Giants, which, based on the positioning, it is gonna put the Zappy behind the bridge, which is a little bit away from the MK's range when it comes to the drop damage.
Absolutely ruthless is what I'm going to say. It's absolutely ruthless, Sir Smoke over there, making sure he gets both the tanks in, pushes them to line up, and then comes in with the Earthquake, and then eventually the Long and the Zap is coming in clutch as well, just dishing out so much damage. It's going to be impossible for Mish. And Sir Smoke finally just coming up close to the camera and, you know, just speak a little bit cocky. Deserves it. Honestly, deserves it.
Well done. That was a very, very good response. Okay. So this was a very, very big outplay, and I definitely enjoyed that match coming from Sir Smoke. Like, the outplay coming in, taking advantage of his positions on the bridge position, especially when it comes to Zappy, right? The MK is great in dealing with the Zappies, but it needs to cross the bridge. And if you do that, alright, it's good. But can the Magic Knight do enough damage to kill off the Royal Giants? That's gonna be another question. And that was difficult. That was a very difficult situation.
Honestly, this has to be by far the best outplay there was possible, because look, with the Royal, I do believe it was our Royal Giant, and obviously with the Skell, right? Now here's the thing. He was making sure that the units were tanking damage to make sure they came in close enough to the tower at the same time, and then use the Earthquake. Then obviously he did have the Lock to cycle with it. On top of it, Zappies. There's literally no way for Mish to try and come up with a counter. It was impossible for him.
I think what threw Mish off was that he didn't expect Sir Smoke to play a very rampy composition. And what I mean by ramp is that it's high cost elixir all the way through, can only pull off when you make it to his 2x, right? 2x or 3x elixirs. And what he did not expect was that he didn't go for early aggro, and I'm pretty sure if Mish went for an early aggro, it was something that Sir Smoke could not overcome, because it was so risky and there was so many variations where things could go wrong if Mish decided to go for an early composition. And I can't believe, I don't know if it's like a gentleman courtesy or something, somehow they pulled off ramp composition. It's just Sir Smolot had a bigger RAM compared to
It's unreal.
to
It's
Mish.
absolutely unreal. I do remember at the end of the first game, right? In this matchup, at the end of the first game, you did mention if Sir Smoke had a little more time, he would have been able to bring it back. But this
Yeah.
is exactly what he realized, right? He realized where he went wrong. Early game is not his strength with this deck of cards, right? The way he plays, his game style, early game does not benefit him. He knows end game is when he can actually come in clutch,
Yep.
and that's exactly what he did. But here's the thing, Mish fell for it.
Yeah, and at 2 games in a row, we see that Sir Smoke a lot tends to lean on towards a rampy composition where high elixir cost gets like huge units. I was expecting maybe an Electro Giant would be his playstyle, but it didn't exactly go. A Royal Giant and also the Scale Bomber does work very similar. Instead of having 1 unit, we've got 2. But I think Mish was able to win game 1 because he played a very aggressive early compositions. He was able to cycle through Goblin Trio. That's what completely shut down Sir Smogolot's play style, right? So 2 games in a row, he showed that he loves playing a ramp composition. So maybe Mish in game number 3, he needs to adapt that, hey, maybe early aggression is not his playstyle. We can try and force an early aggression, maybe force out like Royal Giants, not Royal Giants, Royal Hawks, maybe even Barbarian Loggers or even, I don't know, Hawk Riders, maybe even Ram Riders as well, which I'm not gonna lie, Ram Riders has been really, really weak. And Ram Riders is a great way to deal with Electro Giants as well, which unfortunately out of all the games we've seen, we've only seen 1 game of Electro Giant, which is played by Famous Kid.
Here's the thing. Let me put on my tinfoil hat. What if the first game, obviously, it cannot be
Imaginary
strategized.
tinfoil, I get it.
No, but imagine this. Imagine this. The first 2 games, he did play those ramp decks. But what if he comes in with a faster deck for the 3rd game to try and just lead him on, and then at the end of the day, outsmart him? So obviously, it's a lot of permutations and combinations, which is possible. But this is when the research comes in. This is when you need to sit down and watch game footage more than you actually play the game, because you need to understand your opponent and what does he like to do. And this is where I believe he's going to have the most amount of pressure, especially Sir Smoke, right? Because Mish knows what works for him and what does not work for Smoke. And Smoke knows this as well, that Mish must have realized by this point that he's been playing those heavy decks. But the question is, does Smoke change it up?
This is... I don't know. This is very difficult to actually play. I feel like based on 2 games in a row, Smoke, he definitely leans on towards the late game composition, right? So it comes down to whether or not Mish is going to be able to pull off his usual comms again. Because technically, based on this competition, if you were to base it off like Worlds and Globals, once you play a deck on game number 1, you're not allowed to use the same cards on game number 2 or game number 3. But for Fanfury Open Championship, it's a little bit different. We only ban 2 cards in the entirety of the game. So you can technically reuse your decks from game number 1 and game number 2. But if you want to get good in the game, you have to adapt to the globals. You want to play with the worlds as well. Play multiple decks is going to be the way to go. And so far, we've seen that kind of sportsmanship coming from all the players. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to see whether it is going to happen. But as of yet, this is going to be game number 3. Winner takes the series. First game won by Mish. Second game won by Sir Smoke-A-Lot.
Now, this is where it starts getting interesting, because the Goblin Cage coming in immediately. But we do have the Scale King coming up and the Mother Witch. And here's the thing, right? With the way both of these players have started off in a bowler.
Oh wow, this is a very good adaptation coming from Sir Smoke-A-Lot. He, instead of going for a rampy composition, he goes for a composition with swarms, right? This is him demonstrating that, hey, I'm not the rampy player that you thought I was. It catches them by surprise. Now with this bowler coming in, I think he's gonna have a tornado, either a tornado or a freeze later on to actually chain for this composition. So looks like it is going to be arrows instead of that. So, all right, this is a big swarm coming in, and I don't think Mish can clear this off at all.
Oh, my lord. This is incredible. He almost gets a tower away with this. The amount of damage is Dish not going to get the last strike in. He cannot, but he definitely has the arrows. He definitely has, the tombstone to work with as well. So it's going to be impossible to hold this back. And Sir Smoke just coming in clutch immediately in the 3rd game, changing things up. And he's going to keep the lanes busy with this.
Yeah, I don't think Mish has an Archer Queen in this deck. Like, the only way to deal with this composition is pretty much either Archer Queens or maybe even a big lightning strike coming in from him, which he has. But unfortunately, it's extremely hard to pull off because if you think about it, Sir Smolot, he always plays a lot of minion, and even though lightning is great, but is not good at clearing off all these minions. You want to do damage onto the bowler, you want to do damage on Skeleton Kings, but when a huge swarm comes in, it's all RNG.
Absolutely. But you know what? I think there's one thing I must point out right now. Sir Smoke might have realized that he's not the one playing a rampy deck. It's actually Mish, and the amount of damage he's dished out in the first strike itself is enough for a fireball to take it out, so he can wait it out until the last moment. Just hold the line for now and cycle the fireball and make sure he takes it out right at the last moment and just walk away with a victory.
Oh my goodness, look at this. Again, another RNG play coming from Mish with the lightning, getting one hit on the turret and one on the Zappy, one on the skeletons he did. That is going to force his hand because of this, Sir Smola is going to be a big swarm, which is extremely hard to deal with. He's got a Hog Witch coming in, but there's nothing much he can do about this. This ramp, especially for the Skeleton King, and knowing that Bandits is out of picture to clear off the swarms and not Archer Queen, I don't think he can do anything about it. So well done coming from Sir Smolot, and that's pretty much game from him.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. I would have to call it a tactical genius. You know, at this point, I have a reason to believe Sir Smoke, while he did come in with the strategy in the first game, but read his opponent like a book. He read him like an absolute book. It's like, you know what? So this happened in this game. Turn to page number 52, and I know exactly what to do.
Yeah, I feel like an absolute noob and an idiot right now, thinking that, hey, you know, he's a rampy guy, you know, he's not gonna pull some
I did tell you there is a possibility.
And I think Mish had the right idea. He was expecting another rampy composition, but that was dirty. Like, the only way that I saw that he could have won was that he did not have the lightning, or he had an Archer Queen or something like that to actually deal with the swarm, and he had no response. And we saw twice now with Mish forces the lightning to deal with the Skeleton King or the bowler, which unfortunately bounced off to the tower, to the Zappy, to the skeletons, which are so it was so painful to watch for Mish. I feel bad. Like he got the early 1-0 and just got completely dumpstered by Spurs Mola. Well done, well done. That shows you that experience plays a huge factor.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, it was very enjoyable as well, as a matter of fact, because everybody likes an underdog story, but redemption arcs is where it's at. And maybe I just like a little hint of evil right there. But no, absolute masterclass in reading the opponent, and not just the deck, but reading the player. And this is something that's said in poker a lot. You know, you don't read the play, you read the player, and that's exactly what Sir Smoke did over here.
Yeah, he completely, I would say, hide his true intentions, right? I think we had a lot of discussion with production as well. Like, some of the players, they tentatively like to hide their actual decks. You know, sometimes they even bluff their way through, right? So the big bluff that even I myself got caught was that he didn't play a full ramp comp. So that was pretty much outplay and big brain coming from Sir Smoke. So for these guys watching at home here, in case you missed out the action, let's go take a look into the highlights of all three matches coming from both Sir Smoke a lot as well as Mish.
Oh, absolutely. And I really want to see what the chat has to say about this. Unfortunately, I did not have the stream open, but I'm pretty sure they found it really exciting the way it all unfolded, right? The first game, it was Sir Smoke losing out on the deck that he was playing. He was playing a relatively endgame deck, right? And he needed a little bit more time, but then again, with that drill, the Goblin drill just chipping away at the tower. The second game, we waited until double elixir, and then we saw Sir Smoke just showing a masterclass in how to play the endgame.
Yeah, that was very nicely done. Zappies are just amazing in disrupting against Infernal Dragons as well as any kind of rampy compositions, right? Especially against, I think, Electro Giants as well. It's great at just popping a couple of staggers, and once that happens, you can actually proc it off by luring it with the Fire Spirits, or even 1 million cost Skeletons to actually lure it away. But when it comes to this kind of compositions, I feel like he just didn't have the answer. Like, he had two lightnings, expecting that. I honestly think the lightning in game number 2 would be a little bit better, because he can deal with both the bowler as well as what's it called?
Which one?
The Royal Giant.
Yeah.
But in game number 3, he switched up the Royal Giant. He switched up the Royal Giant with the Skeleton King, which is lesser mana, annoying to deal with a big swarm, completely counters the lightning. So this is well done. And I think Sir Smoke a lot, he understands that Mish really prioritizes on his spells, which is the fireball, the arrows, as well as lightnings to actually deal with swarm. So he was able to bait it out, expecting that, hey, lightning can't deal with anything, or arrows can't deal with big units. What's it called? Fireballs can deal with big units, but it's such a small area. And if you have like a big swarm of skeletons coming in, you can't clear them all. So the MK would be a very nice addition. But even the MK couldn't help him out a lot because the Zappies was just constantly staggering his way through. So, well done for the adaptation coming from Sir Smoke a lot. Well done.
Absolutely. I think the only place that was possible was the first two games, but the second game was, I believe, the most crucial one. But let's have a look at the schedule first and see what matches do we have coming up. I'm really waiting for Mohsin to show up because I do believe that he has a very different approach to this entire tournament. But then again, we saw 4-2 nils, and then finally we saw a 2-1 Sir Smoke versus Mish. The first game to go to the third one. And yeah, finally the best of three showing up. And really excited. The deeper we go into the day, the more games we watch every day. Sorry, the more games we watch in this day, it's getting more exciting.
Yeah, it definitely is as well, because that was a pretty close match as well. And I'm looking forward to see how the final 3 of the top 16 is going to go later on. And this next match here is going to be DK versus Nova Unknown. I believe the chat has been raving on for Nova Unknown for a long time as well. And I'm not surprised, considering that he has a pretty high achievement when it comes to his trophy so far. We don't see him going for tournaments a lot based on our stats here, official tournaments, but he does have a pretty high trophy count in his entire season. Previous season so far, his highest trophy count was 8,103, ranking globally 523 in the world. So he does have a pretty decent one. So I'm looking forward to see how it goes against that matchup.
Yeah, 8,000 trophies. I can only dream for the day when I have 8,000 trophies. Honestly, 500, top 500 in the world.
Yeah, top 500. And you know what's the best part? This is not I would say an underdog story, right? Because his opponent, DK as well, having 8,008 trophy, ranking highest 549th global rank as well. So both of players, this could be a first appearance coming in the tournament for us. Maybe an official ones, we haven't seen too much coming from them. But for them to rack up this highs, these are what we call ranked games coming up. So I'm looking forward to see who does have the upper hand in this matchup.
Absolutely, it's going to be interesting to see, but this one I believe is going to be very close because of how similar their stats are and how similar their stories have been so far. So it could be anyone's game, but yeah, a ranked game I think is a nice twist in this mix because we've seen some incredible players, we've seen players being outclassed, we've seen some games go to the end. Might as well just have a ranked game. Okay.
Please don't ban Archer Queen and play Archer Queen. I want to see an Archer Queen comp. Like, not even a single game. It's so weird. It's so popular, yet it's completely being ignored. And I don't know, maybe the ranked games will tell us otherwise as well. I'm looking forward to whether to see Nova as well as DK is going to be playing it in this upcoming match, because that is a match to follow, right? When it comes to bans, when it comes to stories, what are they going to focus on? I'm looking forward to see how it goes, because right now we're going to be jumping straight into this game between both DK as well as Nova Unknown.
Let me just go on a hunt. All right, then the miner just coming straight up and trying to go in, but the giant skeleton is going to come in clutch. No damage being dished out and being able to tank that as well. But the mega minion, is this going to be enough? I don't think so. Ooh, the split lane pressure.
Yeah, it seems like it is going to be a very similar comp to Sir Smoke a lot, coming from DK, representing from India as well. Nova Unknown going to be represented from Bangladesh. So this is something that they've got to figure out how they do. But it looks like we are going to see the Golden Knight coming in to deal with swarms. And unfortunately, DK not playing a swarm comp. So this is not going to help him at all, unfortunately.
But wait, here's the thing. We do have a delivery at least. That's something you did talk about, that the delivery is something that's something that's really impactful, but we've not seen it so far. Oh, yeah, you go. There you go.
Archer Queen coming in to actually deal with so much damage. And look at this Archer Queen is getting a bang for buck, a 2-for-1 trade-off to be actually trade. And this is just so much value. However, unfortunately, the Archer Queen is not going to benefit a lot as well. Likewise, coming from Golden Knight, both players doesn't exactly go for a super swarm-oriented playstyle. I like how Nova Onion is unknown is going for a different variation compared to Mish going for, instead of Goblin Drill, he is going to go for the minus, deal with it. But we are going to see Poison very, very prematurely used and is not going to get a little bit of value, and hopefully DK is going to be able to get the punish out of this.
Is this enough time? It is enough time, but well, the Golden Knight is going to go down as well. But here's a question. What is the last card going to be? Because for now, DK, all he needs to do is just wait it out just a tad bit and keep cycling along, which he can. He does have an Earthquake to work with, and the delivery coming up. But the deck looks really, really strong.
Oh no, he doesn't have a solution to this. This is pretty much game. Like, Nova Unknown messed up the moment he dropped the poison preemptively to get value out of this, but he know it's over. That was just a big mistake, showing the poison rather early and not getting value damage onto the Royal Giant as well as the Scale Bomber, and just like that, DK just completely outplayed him, and well done. 3 crowns from the get-go in game number 1 from DK.
That was quick. That was the
fastest one of the day. It's okay, we understand. The viewers, for these guys watching at home, you miss our face, and I get it, but it's just a big mistake. Like, you cannot afford to make mistakes. The poison on the bridge, just hoping to get value, and I think he preemptively landed his skill, expecting DK to actually drop a big swarm, but he pretty much showed his hands, right? Like, I've got a Royal Giant, I've got a Scale Bomber. I don't think I'm going to be going for a Swarm deck. I'm just going to go with big units, and you need maybe Inferno Towers, maybe even Inferno Dragon as well to actually deal with this kind of composition. Maybe a big Swarm would be nice, but unfortunately, he just doesn't have it because he plays a minor composition, which is relying on going for full defense. Yes, the full defense is there, but not enough to deal with these kind of ramp comps.
Oh, absolutely not enough to deal with a ramp comp like this, but again, at the same time, what I'm really surprised about is the fact that it was just so quick. And look, it's understandable. The game was over. We saw it halfway through this game itself, right? But to give up 3 towers like just like that, just maybe hold it out for a bit. Yeah, no.
It's extremely difficult because I think when it comes to world stages, right, especially when high tier rank games, the moment your first trade off and you get like half tower damage onto his left or right, regardless of what the situation, and your entire tower is just completely untouched, that was pretty much game over regardless. And it was extremely hard to do off, and it makes a lot of sense, right? First trade off coming from DK, he was able to get like what, 20% chip damage from tower, no trade value out of it. Second attempt, more than half. That was pretty much GG for Nova Unknown. So it's very difficult to do. But now, game number 2 is on its way. We are going to see the Archer Queen once again. But now, Nova Unknown going for the adaptation, going for Hawk Rider, getting an upper hand in the trades for now.
He does get the Hawk Rider to go in and dish out a lot of damage, but the Skeleton's coming in. We're just trying to cycle through, but that's not going to be enough. And look at the Valk coming up now. This is going to be able to dish out some damage, but AQ being taken out. And the question over here is who has the election advantages? Coming out on top with the Royal Giant. And DK trying to keep the pressure up, but we do have the AQ coming again. And it's a light cycle deck. This is going to be interesting to see because you have the Skeleton, you have the Fire Spirit as well, so you can technically cycle through really quickly. An early game is where he can build up a lot of pressure, but again, the Hog Rider coming in, trying to dish out damage, and this is brilliant.
Oh my goodness, the Fisherman comes in. He is going to get the King Tower activation coming from DK as well. But I'm a little bit more curious coming from what Nova Unknown is playing because he's got a Fire Spirit as well as a 1 minion Skeleton here. So I'm expecting maybe a Mortar or maybe even Tesla being played later on, considering that DK is respecting him by banning off the Expo. So I'm a little bit surprised that he's not showing his hands yet. But now, a very preemptive Archer Queen coming from DK to actually cycle his way through. But looks like he is going to pop an ability as well, get a free kill on the Hawk Rider and also mid-structure damage. So big values coming in from DK.
This is insane. This is absolute insanity, what is happening over here, because No Unknown definitely had the upper hand when he came out with the first Hog Rider to go in, but then again, just cycling through so quickly, and DK with the perfect counter push, and just walking away with the advantage. But look at that, though. Is it? Oh, so close.
Oh my
so
goodness, that
close.
is big value from DK because Nova Unknown, he popped the ability on the Archer Queen on top of it all, got fireballed as well. There's just big value coming from DK from that. So, oh my goodness, this is a big outplay coming for you. Now, Fisherman pulling the Hog Rider as well, getting triple towers, getting damage as well. This is just big values all and over coming from DK. Well done.
And what was insane was the fact that I did talk about the King Tower activation with Fisherman, right? I think 2 games ago. And he pulled it off to perfection. Absolute perfection.
Yeah, this is just big value coming in. Royal Knight as well, gonna get a little bit more chip damage. And here comes the Royal Giant Showcase coming in from him. Fisherman gonna pull the Valkyrie away. Oh no! That is just so unfortunate. The Royal Knight is gonna get a little bit more value from this trade-off. And because of this, the Archer Queen is gonna drop by. But now here comes the ability. But seems like Nova Unknown finally gets a little bit of breather to defend, but the damage has been done. Double pressures from both lanes, and DK's got King Tower activation. It all comes down to this overtime now.
Oh, absolutely. This does come down to the overtime, but again, look at the Fisherman just being so impactful and taking away that damage, the potential damage that could be caused. But the AQ coming in again, a split lane coming up, but the Fisherman is on the left. I do believe that he could go in with an RG at the end on the left.
I think DK is in an advantage where he can just play it safe, right? Play it slow, play it safe. He's got advantage. Just make sure that Nova Unknown doesn't out-trade him in terms of towers. He's like 400 behind him on the right tower, top right tower coming from Nova Unknown, right? So all you gotta do is just play it safe, but it looks like he doesn't want to play it safe. He wants to go and trade it off. Tesla comes in, but on the left side, the Royal Ghost is also gonna be trading off as well in case they lose a right side tower. So he's gonna try and bang about it as well. Royal Golem comes in. Here comes the Fisherman holding for the Hog Rider, and he's gonna get value on it as well. So that means DK, he's playing for double towers in case Nova Unknown decides to get a little bit cheeky out of it. Fireball as well to get a little bit more value, but somehow on the right side, the Valkyrie is gonna be coming in to get a little bit more value, but because of the King Tower activation, Nova Unknown is losing out on all these trades from the get-go. Earthquake comes in. Oh my goodness, it might be a turn of events. And nope, unfortunately not gonna get enough. And this might be GG. I think this might be GG.
Is it? Yeah.
It's not over yet, no?
Yeah, it's not over yet, but this definitely is going to be GG for sure.
Yep. Well done, well done.
DK,
That's well
absolute
done.
monster. Absolute monster. Listen, that King Tower activation with the Fisherman is when I lost it. This is absolutely the highlight of the day for me, because I did say it's very cheeky to do it. It's even more difficult to execute it to perfection. But from that point on, because if he did not get that King Tower activation, that obviously would have had more chances. But the problem is the amount of damage that would have been dished out to all the towers without that activation, because the defense wasn't that strong, by the way. All he was depending on was the Fisherman and the King Tower activation. Fisherman to pull away, especially when the Hog Rider came in, right? To try and make sure he does not get the amount of hits he could. And then, of course, pulling him towards the center, the King Tower activation, helping with the defense. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, this is a good example of why the King Tower activation is so strong against swarms or even cheeky pressure side lanes, right? So the difference between the previous match, especially coming from Moogie, was that Moogie, he was facing up a composition that doesn't require minions, right? You're using Earthquake to actually chip damage. You're using a Goblin Miner or Goblin Druids as well to actually get a little bit more chip damage, which doesn't really care if there is King Tower there activation regardless, because eventually the main damage comes from the Earthquake and when going for the offense. Here, it's a completely different story, right? Here, I think Nova Unknown, he was playing trying to go for a little bit of split push cheese with the Hog Rider. Unfortunately, can't do anything about it because the Fisherman is gonna pull him off. He's gonna get 3 towers hit on the way through and get a little bit more value. Even the Valkyrie on the right as well, which Nova Unknown logically should have won his matchup against the right side on the tower, bottom right especially. The King Tower was able to chip him off very, very quickly. So I think when it came to the gameplay as well, there was just a big outplay coming from DK, understanding that his matchup, he's going to benefit from this. So well done in him. But now, in case for these guys watching at home, you missed out in the action here, this is going to be some highlights for you between both DK as well as Nova Unknown in this matchup with a very, very convincing 2-0 by DK.
Absolutely, but yeah, the first game itself, right? Three crowns, pretty easy victory. He knew the moment he lost that, he knew that the game is done. Both of these players knew that, had to do nothing else, and that was the first game. But the second game, though, is where it got really interesting because with the amount of confidence that Unknown pushed, I'm not sure if that was confidence or what it was desperation. Because the first Hog Rider as well, right? He just went in immediately. But this is where the game changed. The King Tower activation.
Yeah,
Very
the moment
crucial.
the moment the King Tower activation came in, things just turned for the turning point as well. And even in this fight as well, the Valkyrie was supposed to do a little bit more chip damage for the Royal Giant before he ramped up in the team, right? Because the Fisherman was able to pull the Valkyrie away, Nova wasn't able to ramp on the right side to go in for the GG push. So that was pretty much a big turning point coming from DK, making full advantage that, hey, I've got a Fisherman, I'm going to benefit from it. I don't need to go for defense because eventually if I stall things long enough, all my turrets are going to be able to clear whatever you throw with them. So we finally get to see a little bit of Archer Queen, but not to be used against a Swarm deck yet. So we didn't exactly see Archer Queen benefiting from a Swarm deck, but a little bit of a very interesting integration was that the Archer Queen coming from DK was able to clear a Hog Rider with 1 elixir value, clearing on the Hog Rider and also getting chip structural damage on top right. So that was very, very nicely done coming from DK.
Absolutely, but to all the viewers out there, right, just make sure you guys stay stuck to your seats because we have a lot more action. And you've seen this with every single game that's coming up. We're seeing much better action again and again and again. But for now, it's just time for us to take a breather once again, fill up my coffee mug maybe, just get some water, get some food. You guys absolutely are not going anywhere because we will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fanfury Open Championship, sponsored by Fanfury. I am Mamba Senior. Alongside me, the same man, the myth, the legend. He's none other than IC Baby, my partner in crime for Clash Royale, because he's the one who's come up with a lot of data. But talking about the players, yeah, I'm still waiting for the second matchup which is going to happen in this segment, which is going to be with Mohsin. And the reason why I keep raving about this player because he's had a very different playstyle. But let's go on to the brackets first and see what are the two matches in this segment. And we'll walk you guys through it.
Yep, I'm super excited to see how it all goes down. But so far, the top 16 has not disappointed me at all. We have saw a lot of variations. We've saw a lot of ranked games composition. Personally, I did not exactly enjoy DK Nova Unknown, even though because it was game one, it's just a very unfortunate matchup. But nevertheless, it was still a good game coming from DK because he completely outshined him overall in the general. So that means he is going to be in the second quarterfinals where DK is going to go with Sir Smoke a lot tomorrow in the third quarterfinals for tomorrow's matchup. Whereas we are going to be proceeding with the next matchup, which is going to be DVJ versus Sammy YT, as well as Sukar going up against Mohsin later on for the final quarterfinals matchup later on.
Absolutely. And this is the schedule, right? We do have 10 matches in total happening today. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, a forfeit, and then we had Sir Smoke coming in clutch with, the brilliant comeback that he had. And then again, we saw a couple of more games after that. But going back to the last game that we saw, it was just phenomenal. DK Noah Unknown 2-0. Right now, we're going to have DVJ and Sammy YT. Then we'll have Sukar and Mohsin. Then once again, Venom is going to show up and Famous Kid as well. And then we have Noisy Boy and Jess.
Yeah, I'm looking for me. My personal favorite for so far is going to be the matchup between Famous Kid as well as Venom. I'm looking forward to see how they duke it out in the first quarterfinals, right? They are going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially coming from Famous Kid has demonstrated that he has the skills to play a very high competitive. But for me, that is them, right? DVJ is somebody that I really enjoyed the most in yesterday's close quarterfinals. Every game, okay, Famous Kid, okay, I'm sorry, maybe I would have enjoyed Famous Kid if he played yesterday's games, but DVJ was pretty much the only one that played a lot of structural beating composition, which was very difficult to pull off. So I'm looking forward to see whether or not he pulls it off, because right now he is going to be playing up on screen, DVJ going up against Sammy YT, and the cards that are going to be banned is going to be the Valkyrie as well as Graveyard. Valkyrie coming from Sammy YT means that he is going to be looking forward to play a Swarm composition on land. So, I don't know. This is going to be very risky to play.
True, but I'm not sure what the idea with the arrows was over there. But nonetheless, I guess we'll just wait it out and see what happens over here.
I think he's going to be cycling his way through. But considering how DVJ understands that he doesn't want to play Valkyrie means that he is going to be playing swarms that going to be playing on land, right? Rather than aerial warfare. So he does have a very good area to actually deal with all this kind of situation. But the Mega Knight preemptively being dropped up ramp coming from Sammy YT to stack it up is not going to do too much. Inferno Dragon is going to be there. The E-Wizard is, I don't think he's going to play E-Wizard this comp. Zap as well is not going to be played as well. Here comes the Royal Delivery, getting so much value from DVJ. And this Mega Knight just gets completely dumpstered.
He does. The Inferno Tower along with the delivery was absolutely perfect. But look at that though.
Oh wow, he plays the E-Wizard. Alright, I did not expect that.
No, but he did have the Evis show up the last time as well when this play came up. But the problem is that he is consistently dishing out damage to the tower.
Damn, this is big. This E-Wizard was something that I did not expect. I thought he was not going to go for E-Wizard MK composition, which is very rarely used right now, even though I play it on in the recent games, but it's not suited in the current meta to deal with big ramps. And fortunately for him, he does have a big P.E.K.K.A coming in to the play. The Info Town is just going to get even more value out of it, just like that. And I like the rage cycle coming from Sammy YT, and it's not going to help him at all.
It's not. I'm not quite sure what the idea is over there with that, but the guards are on the left lane this time around, and we do have the MK come up with the minion going up against him, but the poison not going to be that effective, not dishing out any damage to the tower.
Oh no, here comes the Golden Knight as well. Is he gonna go for the activation chain his way through? But considering that P.E.K.K.A is coming into the pool, he's not gonna do too much. It seems like he does have the skeleton our soldiers to actually try and kite off some of the zaps from the E-Wizard. And it's gonna be okay. And the E-Wizard is not gonna get a little bit more value. And DVJ, he's gonna put up the aggression now with the miners here as well. The Mega Knight to respond, but that is gonna be chip damage on his way through. So DVJ going for a very sneaky composition. And like I said as well, he loves using miner as chip damage for his comps, and he has demonstrated this yesterday as well. So seems like it is going to be the miner meta once again, I guess.
I guess so, but here's the thing, right? DVJ has been able to dish out consistent damage altogether the entire game this time around, getting the poison right as well. Last time he did not get the poison right. He has the defense sorted out. He has Inferno Tron along with the Royal delivery to make sure the push can be stopped, along with the lock to cycle through. So just playing it to perfection at this point, it's just a blueprint that he's copying and pasting time and time again with every cycle.
Yeah, this is so unfortunate coming from Sammy YT, considering that the Mega Minion is so hard to deal with, right? Oh, no, great vacuum there for the King Tower activation, but he's still losing a lot in structural damage, right? We're heading towards overtime, and right now, the biggest problem from Sammy YT is to deal with the Mega Minions, right? If he wants to deal with it, he needs to keep his Witch as well, his Wizard as well as his Minion Horde to deal with it. Unfortunately, is not going to benefit a lot out of it because there's just so much overcommitment coming from him. Eventually, DVJ is going to continue with his relentless pursuit with his miners to get chip damage. And not gonna lie, Sammy YT, he's playing defensively in all these rounds, and it's so hard to go on offense right now.
Oh, absolutely. He knew exactly how long he needs to play defense, and now he's just going in for offense. Look at the poison getting so much value out of that one spell right there, but the Mega Minion coming up, and this is where it starts getting interesting. But is this going to be helpful? It doesn't look like the Eve is going to try and come up. Is it going to work? I don't think so. I mean, he is trying to take down the Inferno Tower over there, but just trying to get enough value. It's not going to be enough value. The MK coming down, but at the same time, so much damage being dished out. I don't think Sammy has any chance whatsoever over here.
Yeah, Sammy YT now going for a double ramp coming in from the sides and the left to apply split the pressure here as well. He knows that he's going to lose up to 1v1. Here comes a big tornado to try and stack up with the poison, and he's going to back big values coming from DVJ. Just like that, he's going to clear that Mega Knight on top of it all, but looks like he is going to build a big ramp as well. He's using the miner to try and lure and delay the push, but with the Golden Knight as well to drag into the center, hoping to get a middle turret trade, but at the same time, it's over. He doesn't have enough damage, and DVJ just completely outplays him by winning against the time. Battle against the time. DVJ is just a chip master at this stage of the game. Well done indeed.
Yeah, I told you, right? He knew exactly what works and kept on copy-pasting the same blueprint with every cycle that went on. The tower, the miner, the log, just played it to perfection. That's it. That's about it. There's nothing to analyze over here.
Yeah, he was just so smart and playing this kind of damage, right? Like, he used the exact same comp he played in yesterday's games as well, coming from DVJ. It's extremely difficult to do because once you put a miner, you put a poison, right? Any kind of minions is gonna get completely destroyed, right? Arguably, if you put like a skeleton swarm, you go for a 1 minute unit to actually deal with the miners, is not gonna work. And you can see that Sammy YT was struggling. He's preemptively using those kind of Mega Knight drops just to deal with a miner, anticipating that the poison is gonna drop. Because once the poison drop, it's gonna get value of the the wizard is gonna get value out of the minion hordes as well, which we didn't even see a single time dropped coming from Sammy YT to actually do, because easily cleared by the poison. So it's well done coming from DVJ. So now jumping straight to game number 2, I don't think Sammy has a lot of time to adapt, but I'm pretty confident that DVJ is gonna play the exact same comp. Maybe. Oh yeah, he is. I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely could be, but the Golden Knight and MK absolutely coming on top. But here's the thing, that the Mega Minion has been getting so much value every single time, but the Inferno Dragon is going to be able to counter that, and
oh my
the
goodness,
delivery coming up as well. But is that going to be enough? Yeah, we do have the miner to play with, and scale battle. Look at that.
Yeah, the scale barrel is going to benefit a little bit, but no, instantly countered with the log as well. He's okay with just dropping a barrel drop damage, but personally, I like the adaptation coming from Sammy YT. The Mega Knight is good, but at the same time, the loot delivery completely messes him up because one drop, you saw how quickly the Inferno Dragon just dies. It's 3 mana cost for a 4 is just so much value, and no way, he even got the pool in the middle as well. great defense from Sammy YT, but still managed to bend through the defense still.
I have a reason to believe with those goblins over there, he could have actually tried to go for a King Tower activation, but it just did not get it right.
Very difficult to pull off. Very, very difficult to pull off. Not gonna lie. That's just based on luck as well, if he gets the timing right. Yeah, it's definitely based on luck for sure, because DVJ needs to be proccing the activation in time, and if Sammy YT needed to pull it, it's very difficult to do. Oftentimes, minion hordes, like 5 units is very difficult to pull off, compared to using like a 5 spirit or 3 unit skeletons compared to like a 5 unit. So it was very difficult to pull off with that kind of comp. And you're gonna be committing for a King Tower activation by using like what, 3 mana cost with additional 2 mana. So it's not it's not worth it.
Makes all the more sense because the detection range is also 180 degrees only, right? So if you get the last kill wrong, it's not going to work out for you. But then again, just chipping away. Look at that, the poison coming in clutch and making sure that he gets consistent damage all the time. But then again, this time around, we do have the miner as a counter coming up and dishing out so much damage yet again. But the log is not going to be useful. Except
this is what I'm talking about, right? Like DVJ dealing with a miner, he goes for a skeleton soldier, which is low cost volume, which can be easily countered by poison on top of the miner. And DVJ did it from game number 1, and he understands his matchup in game number 2 now. That's why he's fighting here. But as of now, it's still pretty neck and neck on how well the Inferno Dragon as well as the Inferno Tower is going to be a huge factor when it comes to situations on doing big minions. But once again, DVJ, he's still keeping up with chip damage strategy, and Sammy YT is going for a rampy composition instead.
I think the poison would have been a misplay over there because it could have definitely got more value if he placed it with the tower. But then again, it's still not over yet. We still have 2 minutes of gameplay left. The Inferno Tower trying to take out the Scale Barrel is going to be a lot of commitment, but the Inferno Dragon holding the line over there.
Yeah, the place now is all, the ballpark is on Sammy YT right now. He needs to time his miner really good, especially with DVJ's Elixir, right? DVJ, on the other hand, is hoping to capitalize on a mishap, and currently there might be a little bit of mistake here. He needs to set up his poison really nice, but Sammy YT is going to keep up his pressure. Now, miner being popped up as well means that he doesn't have the units to actually deal with this as well in terms of cycle, and DVJ now gonna lose a little bit more in terms of structural damage, but now he's gonna turn the tide. Sammy YT doesn't have enough elixir to deal with this big horde, and oh my goodness, a big Golden Knight as well. But unfortunately, the Golden Knight gets lured to the right side instead. Oh my goodness, that is huge coming from DVJ. Patience paid off.
Oh, patience absolutely paid off, and look at that. Now all he needs is one poison cycle at the end to try and get this going. Doesn't even need that, as a matter of fact. He's actually going to pull this off.
Oh, the sigh of relief coming from DVJ. A little bit of a smirk coming in, that knowing that, oh, Sammy YT could have won that, but he overcommitted for the Swarm Hordes and lured the Golden Knight. And Golden Knight, guess what? 1 elixir getting so much minion clears from the get-go, drawing it away and overcommitted the defense for the Golden Knight. So well done coming from DVJ.
Absolutely, well done. And the way it's all turned out, it was getting a little tricky for him. I'm not gonna lie. And you did mention he had a sort of relief at the end. You could see the tension creep up on his face. And at the end of the day, he came out on top. I think that's all that matters, honestly.
Yeah, that was very nicely done coming from DVJ. And I'm surprised that it was a little bit of a mixed switch up coming from him, knowing that DVJ likes to go for chip damage, and I liked how the adaptation coming from Sammy as well to actually deal with it. He used the mirror. He wants to be the one to set up the aggression against DVJ, and DVJ just let him did it. And the moment he overcommitted, he went for the punish. The Inferno Tower was really spot on as well. The delays was really good. At the moment Sammy YT overcommitted that, he just turned the tides with a big army ramp and just completely shut them down. So well done coming from DVJ. But of course, for these guys watching at home here, in case you missed out in action, let's take a look and towards the highlights on how Game 1 and Game 2 went in the way for DVJ when he won that 2 games.
Yeah, and just going through the highlights again, right? You just know immediately. I think he definitely had a better chance, a better control over the pace of the game in the first game. Second game, there was definitely a bit of a struggle, but I guess all that ends well is well.
Yeah. Game 2, like game 1, DVJ was just having full control of the minor composition, right? So Sammy YT, he understood that, hey, maybe Miner is something that is going to be in meta. We did offer. I think we did see a couple of games previously as well where Miners was banned a couple of times, which this is the reason why it's just so annoying to deal with, right? But game number 2, I wouldn't say it's super close, but it's more like it's within the grasp of DVJ to turn the tides, right? You can see overcommitments coming from 7YT to deal with all these minions multiple times, and DVJ was waiting for one mistake to capitalize on the win, and this was one of the mistakes because he didn't have his units in cycle, especially coming from the Mega Knight as well as Inferno Dragon early on, and he doesn't have the elixirs to actually turn the tides. And because of this, like I said as well, the minion horde was something that is very sorry, not minion horde. The mega minion was very underrated in both games because it's so difficult to deal with, right? You need aero units, you need something that shoots from afar, maybe a musketeer, maybe a wizard, which are like 4 minion costs, 4 elixir costs, 5 elixir costs to deal with, which unfortunately you don't have the luxury to do that. And because of this kind of minor plays, it forces that, hey, the minion horde is something I deal with. Mega Knight can't deal with it. That's why we often do see a cheese strategy where loot delivery comes into play, which I think DVJ understood that perfectly well. He used it, I think, once against Inferno Dragon. He used it once against a big swarm as well, which is very underrated in terms of value. It's not, it can't be used offensively, but if you play a defensive comp with chip damage, you are gonna get so much value on it compared to a Mega Knight, which only does ground unit. Like, imagine if, let's say, a Mega Knight can also take out aerial units, then that is gonna be the most broken meta card for the next patch, if it actually happens. But yeah.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of ifs and buts, right? You can always go out and discuss all the possibilities, but it's not always going to be that case. But then again, it was a brilliant match to watch. It was fairly quick as well, as a matter of fact. But or maybe not actually, because you had to go to overtime and then again have the time battle while your towers are being drained out. But for the next one, this is where it starts getting interesting. I believe it's Mohsin who's going to be playing in the next game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be Mohsin going up against Sukar. This is something that I did actually had the luxury to watch a couple of Mohsin games as well. But that's the thing, right? All things considered, I don't know. I don't think his composition is gonna benefit a little bit against a matchup against DVJ. But against Sukar, I think he would be able to stand a chance to actually make it into his top 8, at least for a huge chunk of the prize pool. But I might be wrong. I might be wrong. He might be saving up his composition. So far, we've seen a mix-up coming from Famous Kid. We've seen a mix-up coming from Sir Smoke a lot. But so far from DVJ, I have not seen it yet. So DVJ is comfortable with the minor composition. Maybe might see it banned. But before that, let's take a look at the schedule coming in for the matchup for you guys wondering what's happening here at Fanfury Open Championship.
Well, day one and the schedule over here, we've seen all these games come up 2-0, 2-0. And then, of course, Sukar or Mohsin, we've not seen that yet. But Venom, Famous Kid, Noisy Boy, and Jess. I do believe the game between Noisy Boy and Jess is something that you're looking forward to? Or was it Venom and Famous Kid?
Venom and Famous Kid is something that I really look forward to. But before we head into that, match 8 is going to be happening right after this. So Sukar and Mohsin, our final match for round 60, the top 16 to identify who the top 8 is. For the final quarterfinals, and that is going to be a matchup between DVJ going up against either of these two players right now, which is Sukar and Mohsin. Both Sukar are going to be representing for Nepal, the only Nepal player coming to the entire tournament in the top 16, and Mohsin going to be representing Malaysia. That's gonna be my boy, and of course you'll enjoy Mohsin. I definitely enjoyed him as well because why, he's pretty much one of the very few representing Malaysia, and I'm looking forward to see whether or not he plays. You know, it's our first Malaysian up on screen, and later on it's gonna be another Malaysian as well, which is gonna be just his first time appearing later on. So I'm looking forward to see whether or not Malaysia. Is it going to be Malaysia boleh or is it going to be Malaysia tak boleh?
What does that mean, though? What does that mean?
Malaysia boleh is a slogan that comes from Malaysia as well. Basically, Malaysia can do it, something like that. It's like a shout out. So tak boleh means the opposite of that lah.
I'm definitely not going to say Tak Boleh. I'm going to say Malaysia Boleh because, well, you got to support your homie over here, right? Yeah. We have 5 players representing India over here. So even if one of the players goes out, doesn't matter. We still have 4 more to work with. And we've seen some really promising plays. But I do hope that we get to see some great matches. And, I do hope we get to see Malaysia Boleh.
I hope so indeed. But as of yet here, I think you did talk about a very interesting factor as well. So far, we've seen a lot of adaptation between the regions themselves. Some prefer miners, some prefer swarm deck, some prefer to play around the heroes themselves. But you did mention as well, Mohsin likes to play double pressure into his double lanes. And I think Royal Hawks is something that really benefits as well. I'm not sure if you're going to play, but let's jump straight into the game to find out what is going to be played between both Mohsin as well as Sukar OP in the final top 16 matchup. And Mohsin is going to be on the red side, my boy right there, and Sukar on the blue side. And we do see miners being banned as well as the lightning coming in from Mohsin. So it looks like we are going to be potentially seeing a ram comp coming in from him. Maybe.
But look at that Gobba. This is definitely very interesting, but we do know that Mohsin's coming prepared with that lock going out as well, and he's definitely getting more values from his plays because the way he's been able to dish out damage, right, is definitely worth it. But the guards coming up as well. Is this going to take out the knight? Yes, indeed, it is the Mega Minion coming out. Now, the problem is, while you can't, no, so we do see a cycle coming up as well. So I do believe it's a fairly balanced deck, or at least I have a reason to believe that.
Seems like we are going to be seeing a Goblin Trio coming in come from Mohsin. So a very similar playstyle coming from Sukar. A little bit of an adaptation in terms of instead of using a miner, Mohsin going for the Goblin Trio and Sukar going for the Goblin Barrel instead. So I think the Goblin Trio is gonna do a little bit more in terms of structural damage. It can be used defensively, whereas the Goblin Barrel is not gonna get a little bit more value from defensively, more like an offensive too. So overall in general, I think Mohsin is winning off in all this small skirmishes trade. He's pretty much shown all his cards, whereas Sukar, he hasn't shown his cards yet. We did see a mirror being used, but at the same time, he still hasn't showed his final two cards. So Mohsin needs to be a little bit careful of what he needs to do next.
I do believe we might see a pocket start from Sukar because the mirror can be really tricky to use, but at the same time it can be very impactful if used right. But the amount of pressure that Mohsin is building up over here is unreal, and to counter that is not going to be easy. But let's see if Sukar has anything up his sleeve, because it definitely looks promising to me at least, but it's not going to be easy to execute for sure.
Considering how low cost efficient Sukar's comp is right now, I'm expecting the last two to be a very heavy composition where maybe E-Giants or maybe even Royal Giants here. If he gets a double Royal Giant with a mirror on top of it all, the Goblin Drill is going to be forced to be used defensively, and I don't think Sukar is going to be using it anytime soon, considering the amount of pressure that Mohsin is driving in to the corner. You can see very, very efficient ways of using it. Finally, the poison being used on top of it for a little bit more overcommitment coming from Mohsin. But hopefully he's going to be doing okay, because Sukar right now is not showing his final two cards at all. I don't know why. I just don't know why. What is that final two cards that he's gonna benefit right now? Oh, it's the Rockets. Oh my goodness. Very, very expensive.
It is, but I'm not sure what the idea is. Or the God Battle going in as well is, where is the mirror going to come in clutch is the question, because the God Battle going in, the lock being forced out, but right now he's still on the back foot because the Golden Knight, the Mega Minion, the Drill, the Wildcat's not going to be able to stop them all. The poison's coming up as well. This definitely seems like it's going the way of Mohsin for sure.
Oh yeah, this definitely is as well. Like I was expecting it to be a very big ram coming in, but showing the Rockets coming in means that it's not gonna help him out. And I think the idea with the Rockets is to deal with potentially a Sparky play, which you haven't seen a single Sparky at all. But it's just super unfortunate. Like the Golden Knight is just getting so much value coming from Mohsin to deal with, especially the Dark Goblin, right?
No.
Like, oh no, another Goblin Drill coming in with the poison on top of it all. I think this might be game for Mohsin for sure.
Yeah, no, this is a really strong deck, and the amount of cards played by both of these folks is practically the same. So the average elixir, right, is not that different for both of these folks, but the composition is unbelievably different.
Yeah, the poison is gonna get a final chip into it as well. All it needs is another lock, and that's gonna be game coming in from Mohsin. So well done coming in from Mohsin represent Malaysia, because Sukar got completely outplayed in that guy. He didn't even show his final card as well. I think it's gonna be a very high cost elixir as well, coming from them from that round. Like, I understand that the mirror was used to actually build up a ramp. I think it's gonna be a big ramp coming in, but it's just super unfortunate for the game. So I think the idea of playing chip damage here is smart. but Mohsin just played it a little bit better with the Goblin Drill, with the Poison. So this is something that I think DVJ also plays a lot in this composition. So overall in general, it's just the Golden Knight getting a little bit too much value in all these trades instead compared to Mohsin. What's it called? Sukar OP's composition.
Oh no, absolutely. The way Mohsin played this was to perfection, and I guess that's the reason I was also excited. But I mean, look, I was excited because of the split lane strategy that he had been using. We did not see that, but what we saw was super effective. So whether or not he plays the same strat over and over again on every single day of the tournament is irrelevant as long as he's winning the matchups. And whatever he's done, the opposition has never had the answer to it.
Yeah, so far, if you want to base it off region, right? I think from representing like Singapore region as well as India as well, I think DVJ, Famous Kid, I think Yuki and Los as well as Mohsin, they do play a very similar composition where they want to use Goblin Drills and Miners to actually go for chip damage and play full defensive. And in that game as well, he played a very similar composition coming from Mohsin, and for Sukar OP, it was very difficult to actually overcome, right? I think the final card might have been a Skeleton King, but the Skeleton King just completely gets dumpstered by a Golden Knight, and it's just so hard to play, and it makes a lot of sense. He might have decided to go for like a double mirror of, I don't know. I don't think it's possible, but at the same time, it's just so. I don't see a win condition for him at all because the Poison and Goblin Drill is just so hard to deal with.
There was no win condition over there because he was always on the back foot, right? He had no way to try and sort of build a counter attack, and even if he was able to build a counter attack, right, there was no support for the troops, so it was impossible for him because whatever troops he could have used to support were being used for defense. So it's impossible. It's impossible for him to try and even come up with a win condition, even if he had the best deck in the world. Mohsin was just too good for him.
Yeah, I think the Valkyrie double mirror was just not something that he was expecting to actually get a little bit better. He was expecting like a big ram coming in from Mohsin, but Mohsin just completely ignored it, and I was like, okay, it's all good. You go for a double Valkyrie. All right, I got a Goblin Drill. I can pull you all the way to the middle. I don't care what happens at that stage of the game. So let's take a look at what game 2 is gonna happen here with Sukar OP's adaptation against Mohsin for this game. So obviously the Miners is something that Sukar doesn't want to deal with. And unfortunately to say, Mohsin came up with the Goblin Drill composition to actually deal with. So this time he's going to go for a Ram Scale Bomber against. And we do see the Bandit Golden Knight once again coming from Mohsin.
Well, we do have the Giant Skeleton and the Golden Knight going up against each other. The Bandit, I mean, it could bring in value, but initially I'm not quite sure what sort of value it is going to bring in. But look at the Baby Dragon and Ewiz. Now this could potentially, but the Giant Snowball as well. So he does have the ability to dish out damage from far away, but I'm not sure what the composition is going to be like.
Yeah, that was a very smart play coming from Sukar OP. Like the idea coming from Mohsin was using the E-Wizard to actually get a little bit more value and protect the structural damage. But because of the snowball, he immediately popped off the snowball and forced an overcommitment with the Green Dragon. However, somehow Mohsin still coming up on top with the trade. So Sukar OP somehow underestimated his snowball play.
Could have.
Oh, sorry, overestimated his snowball play. My bad.
That's all right. But the Tornado coming in clutch, and now the P.E.K.K.A. So here's my question, right? It definitely does look like a very heavy deck on both the ends. We've not seen 2 cards from each of these players, and it's still a long way to go. But so far, who do you think has the upper hand?
I think based on the composition coming from Mohsin, Mohsin definitely has a little bit more upper hand. I'm not being biased because he's representing Malaysia, but it's because of the Ram Rider that he has, right? Ram Rider is great at dealing against Ram compositions like P.E.K.K.A, E-Giant, etc. So the Ram Rider coming in from this, if he decides to go in for a big minion with the Scale Bombers again from Sukar, can be easily countered. Like, he doesn't even use the Ram Rider yet, but he's got so many variations to deal with it.
Oh, absolutely. But look at this, right? You did mention the Ram Rider can be really useful, and this is exactly what we are going to see right now. Even with the Dragon coming up, right? There's not a lot they can do, but the Ram Rider will be stopped. We do have the P.E.K.K.A to hold the line, and he can chip away at the tower, but the balloon.
I turned my comments out here. The Ram Rider used preemptively means the balloon is gonna get a free damage out of that, and because of this, he made the first mistake. So Sukar OP is gonna get a little bit more damage because the Ram Rider was used, and because of that, there was no response to stop the balloon. However, a very decent swarm coming build up from Mohsin forced the poison on top of it all. I think he's going to be able to turn the tides a little bit more. He needs one more damage, but oh, the Goblin Drill blocks it. You can see the drawback coming from Mohsin saying that, oh my goodness, I messed that up. Oh my goodness. Well played coming for Sukar.
True, but he still does have an elixir advantage, at least in terms of the timing that he's going to use. But that drill is going to be a pain to deal with. He does have the poison cycle that he can go for. We could see a poison bar battle cycle as well.
It might be the case, but as of now, the Ram Rider will not be used coming from Mohsin. He's gonna hope to try and stall the balloon later on, so he is gonna save it a little bit more now. A little bit more value to deal with Archer Queen. Archer Queen tries to go for an elixir skill activation, not gonna get value out of this, but you can see the hesitation coming from Mohsin to use the Ram Rider in case the balloon comes in. So this is not an okay trade, but Sukar OP was able to catch him by surprise. So well done indeed.
Oh, absolutely. Well done indeed. But I'm really surprised about the poison not coming up. But now he will have to take a step back and try and defend his tower because the baby dragon is going to come up as well. The P.E.K.K.A. needs a little bit of support. The Eve is going to come up. But the question is it going to be enough? The drill going in, dishing out so much damage. But at the same time, it is going to get blocked. And this is getting more and more intense. By the second, the bar battle coming up now. This is when he can go in for a counter push and use the poison as well. Exactly what is going to happen.
Oh, no.
Taking away so much damage. He might just be able to get an upper hand in this fight.
Oh no, Sukar's got a pretty healthy lead. He's forced to use the P.E.K.K.A. to deal with the Scout Miners as of yet. But here comes the balloon, the Goblin Drill as well. But where's the Ram Rider? But it seems like it is going to pop up eventually. Finally deals with the balloon. Now he's going to try and turn the tides, but can they deal with the balloon? The Eevee's on top of it all to try and make it survive. But the tornado pulls him away. But eventually, will the bomb connect? Yes, it will still connect. That means Mohsin is still losing now to trade-off potentially now. 50-50s are coming in. The poison still trying to do a little bit more out of it. But 18 seconds left before the timer runs out, and that is going to be sudden death coming from both the teams. And this is going to be the tiebreaker potentially now. The balloon once again on the sides, and you can see Mohsin needs to go for the Ram Rider once again. Eevee's to stall his way through, but the tornado pulls him away. Means he is going to get a little bit of a delayed reaction out of it. But who's going to get the tiebreaker? And seems like no, Mohsin was able to get value because of the poison. Oh my goodness, that was so close.
This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. That was so close. You can see the disappointment on Sukar's face. I was holding my face like this when I saw the bomb go down, but it couldn't explode because of the timing. The Ewiz, though, there was the clutch. Poison getting value was absolutely true, but the Ewiz came in clutch. Ram Rider wasn't needed. So not playing the Ram Rider over there was actually the right play.
Yeah, it's definitely a smart play as well. But I'm not gonna lie, that was a very, very good ambush played by Sukar, because if I was in Mohsin's position, I was like, oh, he overcommitted for a bomber, he overcommitted for this, he overcommitted for Archer Queen. I was like, oh, okay, I think we're gonna get evaluate. But the moment his Ram Rider ran past all those the forces, and he dropped the balloon, he knew he kind of messed up from Mohsin. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know the Ram Rider is the big clutch in this kind of situations, but the balloon definitely put Sukar in the board for sure. And that was a very, very big, good element of surprise. And I liked how Mohsin was able to adapt to that situation on the fly, using the poison, and just right in the last tick as well, able to do enough damage to surpass Sukar OP. So well done, Mohsin. Well done. You made Malaysia Boleh, bro. Malaysia Boleh.
Look at the happiness on Icy Baby's face. I mean, honestly, you deserve it, because the way Mohsin played over there was absolute clutch. And I'm not disappointed. I had been waiting to see him play the entire day. The entire day from the first game onwards. But let's have a look at the highlights first. While I do have all the praises in the world for Mohsin, deserves it, sure, but this is exactly the reason why I was waiting for this matchup.
Yeah, and I know he's a pretty good player, and he definitely played it to the beat, right? He was definitely a player that benefits using the poison a lot. Instead of going for the graveyard poison composition, he goes for a Goblin Drill poison, which is less cost effective compared to a graveyard poison, which we did see early on throughout the day. And with his plays chipping his way through, I like how Sukar was able to adapt in game number 2 by going for a very rampy rush comp, which in this moment right here definitely caught Mohsin off surprise because he lost his Ram Rider right from the get-go, and the balloon was able to sneak past a lot of damage. So occasionally he did manage to get a couple of trades coming into this game, which was a turning point for him, but unfortunately just wasn't enough to clutch it for the game. And even towards overtime as well, he was still struggling his way through. But like you said as well, the E-Wizard copping in off on the last moment as well to actually turn the things around for him was a big clutch coming from Sukar OP. It was just not enough because the Golden Knight at the last tick was able to get one hit off as well with the one mana cost skill activation by Mohsin to get the 300 damage across. So that was very, very nicely done coming from Mohsin. So it was a very desperate attempt, but all in all, Mohsin still had the better matchup. And I was hoping to see a game 3 on how Sukar OP is going to be able to play it, but unfortunately, Mohsin just played the better game. So congratulations to him, and that pretty much secures our top 8 here in the Fanfury Open Championship, my friend.
That does secure the top 8, and then we do have 2 more quarterfinals to be played out today, and of course the rest of the matches which are going to be played out tomorrow. But then again, Mohsin coming on top, playing really, really well. I wouldn't say he outclassed his opponent, but he did show a lot of composure, which is great for him. So, well, while we talk about him, we have a lot of things to talk about for the next 2 games as well. Right now, it's time for a really, really short break. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere because we will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fanfury Open Championship, sponsored by Fanfury. My name is Ranjit Mama Senior Patel. Alongside me is Icy Baby, and of course, we have the last matchup of the day, the quarterfinal, which is going to happen. And pretty excited because we've seen some amazing matches today. Icy, some wonderful matches.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see more games to come here as well. I was actually excited to see whether or not Famous Kid is going to be playing against Venom right after this. However, there has been a little bit of new information for you guys just watching in as well. Of course, we are going to be heading towards the brackets to give you guys a little bit of update in case you are just tuning in towards the Fanfury Open Championship. And currently, these are your representatives for now. And Venom versus Famous Kid there. Unfortunately, unfortunately for Venom, he is going to be forfeiting his match in that particular round. So that means Famous Kid will be in the semi-finals that is going to be happening tomorrow there.
Absolutely, yeah. He is going to be promoted. But for now, the only matchup left for the day, which we will be seeing, which is going to be a best of 5, by the way, I believe. No, wait, is it a best of 3?
No, it's a best of 3.
It is a best of 3. The semi-finals are best of 5, and the grand finals is a best of 7. So, yeah, best of 3, the last game to go. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we did see Noisy Boy playing early on, represent from Indonesia, but this is going to be our first time seeing Jess play representing from Malaysia. So 2 out of the 1 Malaysian team representing from Malaysia is going to be making it into the top 8, and with Famous Kid now on buff, that is going to be guaranteed in the top 4 for him. But now, this is going to be our first time seeing whether or not how Jess is going to be playing this matchup. I'm looking forward to see how it goes for that, but as for now, in case you guys have missed out on the action early today, we did see all the schedule on screen as well. Venom taking it 2-0, Famous Kid taking 2-0 against Moogie as well, Noisy Boy taking 2-0 against Yuki, Jess getting the bye against Messi early on, and Sir Smoke a Lot getting the 2-1 against Beach, which was very, very interesting to watch, especially from the fans as well. Everyone was looking forward to see whether or not Sir Smoke a Lot is going to make the comeback, and he did get that comeback.
Oh, he did, and in a spectacular fashion as well. He did show us the reason why he's regarded as one of the best players in his country. But regardless, the games which are going to be happening right now, as a matter of fact, only the game that is going to happen is match number 10, and Noisy Boy and Jess. Right, this again is going to be really, how do I say this? Thought-provoking to say the least, because we've seen some really, really different decks today.
Yeah. We definitely saw a different deck as well. Noisy Boy played a lot of adaptation coming from his play style against his counterpart as well. When he placed off against Yuki and lost, he was, I think, the first player that played the Archer Queen deck coming to his today's matchup. He also played a Royal Knight as well as Zappies. We didn't see a Fisherman play from him yet, but I'm looking forward to whether or not he is going to be adapting to the situation, because right now his opponents here is no stranger to the Clash Royale community. For us, it's going to be our first time seeing it up on screen, but his opponents here, Jess, has had a very, very smooth walkthrough into the top 8 with getting a bye early on. His first appearance here, his achievements thus far was the Star Championship C Open 4th place during Season 2 and for 8th place during Season 1. So we do see him starting his journey as a competitive player, but he is making progress so far. Hopefully he's going to be able to make further in this tournament itself.
Oh, absolutely. But for the last game, I do hope we get to see a more conventional meta. I mean, I remember you got so happy when we saw the AQ, right? As a matter of fact, even I was happy with seeing the Archer Queen. But then I do believe we could see something very different. But let's just move on into the game and see what cards have been banned and what is the deck which is going to get played. The Balloon being banned along with the Miner, which is quite interesting. Both of the players just cycling through their cards with low elixir cards. So no damage dealt, except for the fact that Noisy Boy has taken some initial damage.
Sometimes I wonder, is Jess as well as Mohsin kind of be friends or something in real, even though they're both from Malaysia, but at the same time, you know, seeing how the Balloon was played in the previous game by his opponents here, Sukar OP, I don't think he just wants to mess around with it as well. Miner also going to be taken out means that if they decide to go for Goblin Drill compositions and Poison, it might actually work it out. But so finally, we do see the Fisherman being played by Noisy Boy. So this is going to be a traditional comp coming from with the AQ perhaps later on.
We'll find out, I guess, but the Valkyrie coming in really early. The cannon card, though, by the way, which we haven't seen today, but the drill, the Goblin Drill, interesting. So you can ban the Miner, but you can't take away the drill. The Zappies are going to try and come in clutch, but the cannon card, is it going to be effective enough is the question. The Log taking them out. So both the players, right, trying to keep up, but the problem is Noisy Boy is taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, Jess doing a fantastic job as well. I think this is our first cannon card draw of the day as well. I think during production, for yesterday we had a discussion with production. Everyone was saying that, hey, you know, the players cannon cards just are good to use, and I beg to differ. I was expecting to see Morta plays, but like I said, Morta is a skill card to be played. It's not easy to pull off, and if you manage to pull off, it's pretty good. But as of now, nope, we're not gonna see it yet. We don't see the musketeer with the fisherman that is gonna delay and get her out for the scale bomber. And now with the royal knights from the sides as well coming from Noisy Boy, we finally see the mortar coming from Jess. Okay, great usage of it, but is it gonna delay a little bit more because he is trying to draw aggro for King Tower activation, but somehow manages to defend. But the fisherman gets a little bit chip damage on the left side of the tower for Jess.
That's not going to be enough though, because definitely for now, Jess has the upper hand with the amount of damage he's been able to dish out, and the Zappy trying to go in, which is going to dish out some damage, but it's not going to be enough. At the same time, the Mortar coming in. Now this is where it starts getting interesting, because you have the other skeletons going in, but the problem is,
oh no,
is it going to be enough? I don't think so.
Yeah, big values coming from Noisy Boy as well with the fireball to actually get the mortar on top of the musketeer. So that's overall efficient trades comfort. But I like this disposition coming from Jess as well. He's used the lock, delayed the Royal Giant to actually hit the turret and manages to pop the mortar in cycle to go in for the fight. So far, he is doing pretty decent in terms of trade-offs. And here comes the Goblin Jew with the poisons to get on top of the Zappy. More value chip damage coming from Jess. And this is the outplay coming in. And the card cannon is still alive to get more value on towards the scale bomber. Somehow, Jess is taking full control for the situation against his matchup against Noisy Boy.
Yeah, no, this isn't going to be enough. There's no chance this is going to be enough. The problem is Valk going to take damage from the bomb? Nope, that is not going to happen. But look at that, though. Oh, Lord. The fisherman coming in clutch, but we do have the defense coming. All that Jess needs to do right now is hold the line, and that's exactly what he's trying to do while dishing away chip damage with the poison.
Oh, second attempt once again, Noisy Boy, to bring the double ramp coming from the sides with the Royal Knight and the Scale Bombers, but it's not dealing a lot of value. The card cannon is gonna make through, but eventually will be defending on the left side. However, the right side, however, taking a little bit too much damage, and here comes the fireball eventually by the musketeer, and Jess is gonna lose out in the trades for now in terms of the fight, but there is gonna be one more minute in towards the timer, and Jess is gonna continue his assault on the left side to try and potentially take the tower away, or maybe drop it low enough before the tiebreaker against Noisy Boy's composition, which Noisy Boy has to go for a split push composition rather than an all-in one single lane.
Yeah, no, I do believe the drill along with poison would have been a little too ambitious unless he's able to cycle through really quickly. His defenses are going to fall down. Look at the Royal Giant dishing out so much damage, but the log is going to push him back, not being able to chip out any damage whatsoever. Is this log going to dish out damage? Yes, indeed it does. This could potentially be a turnaround of events.
30 seconds left on the clock. The Goblin Trio on the left once again just making a very desperate attempt to try and chip his way through. He needs to get a little bit more damage on the left side unless Noisy Boy has what it say. Another ramp coming in from both the pressure as well. Noisy Boy continues the pressure, and once again another mortar from the side. The card cannon needs to be set up very quickly as well, but the fireball clearing it off means that Noisy Boy is gonna get one more hit on the right tower. He gets it as well, and now just forcefully going for the Goblin Trio on the left side. Can he get the better trade? Yes, he will get a better trade. Fireballs on tower in 4-1-5, but the poison tick is a little bit too much, and you can see the sigh of relief of Jess. He's sweating from that game. He manages to clutch and a comeback. Oh my goodness, what a fight.
What a matchup. This was brilliant, by the way. This was absolutely brilliant. It was anybody's game. So here's the thing, right? Before the overtime, I had a reason to believe Jess was going to walk away with this, but that wasn't the case, because at the end, especially in the end game with the log, with the fireball, and of course the Royal Giant dishing away so much damage, it was impossible for Jess to hold the line. But at the end, the drill coming in clutch, and of course the poison cycle was really good as well.
Yeah, if we talk about this composition being played by sorry, what was it again? By Noisy Boy, right? His draft and playstyle was very similar to how Sir Smoke a Lot played, where remember that one match at Sir Smoke a Lot, as well as I think it was DK? Sorry, was Mish. Where they just completely wait out for like a full 2 minute wait, like about 40 elixirs leak, right? The moment you go to overtime at 2x or 3x, that comp is just gonna steamroll your way through. And Jess understood that he was in a very deficit. He was forcing out a lot of mortars to delay his inevitable push coming in. fortunate for him, he did enough early aggro pressure for to understand what works and what does not work and coming on top. So it was still a very, very close one. And I feel like it might be a comeback coming from Noisy Boy. And coming from game number 2, he might actually stand a better chance if he adapts to Jess's playstyle a little bit better.
So here's the thing, right? You could adapt to the playstyle, but it's only been one game, right? And it's not that the decks were very different. They were able to dish out the same amount of damage overall. It's just that I do believe Jess had better composure at the end of the day, better timing as well. If the match went on for a little bit longer, Noisy Boy would have come out on top. The only problem here was, right, the way he played, endgame was very important for him. He was just not able to get the timing right, is what I believe.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of outplay as well. I think there was one moment. I think the moment Jess kind of messed up was that his card cannon wasn't killed off immediately. And because of that, the Royal Giant was able to completely ignore the card cannon and get chip value damage on the top right tower against Jess. And because of that, he was getting desperate, right? That was where we saw a lot of desperate final hoorah push coming from both sides. And eventually Jess was able to trade off a little bit better because of the poison there. It's going to be free damage all the way through. But now, coming to this game 2, is it going to be the same adaptation? I'm not exactly sure. But we might potentially see Earthquake as an adaptation to deal with this kind of scenario, which in this case, DVJ loves to do that a little bit more.
But here's the thing, I do like this idea of pushing the bridge early on, and is it the same deck?
It feels identical. I think it's going to be a near identical deck coming from Jess again. Likewise coming from Noisy Boy. I think it's fairly okay.
It is. As a matter of fact, it is. It was just down to a couple of mistakes that were made here and there. But then again, the mortar coming up the Royal Giant. Is this going to stop? Oh, no, unfortunate. But the Earthquake at the same time is going to be able to dish out some damage with the lock, along with, look at this, Valk. And we do have the Musketeer going in. Valk is going to fall. Musketeer, is it going to be able to dish out whatsoever? I don't think so. But the lock again, just chipping away. That's it.
This is so smart from Noisy Boy. He knows that he needs something that can actually counter the poison to that or in this way works very similarly to a poison. Earthquake is a great adaptation to do with this as well. Now he's got the Zappy on top of it all. It's gonna be a good ramp compared to game number 1. And I don't know how Jess is gonna be able to react to this, but as of now, what I do know is Noisy Boy has found the weaknesses in his composition, and he's even got an Electro Spirit on top of it all to try and buy a little more time for the cycle.
Absolutely, but the Musketeer is going to take a lot of damage because of the bomb. The Fisherman coming in is going to dish away, and the tower is coming up trying to just give away some sort of backup. But is the Fisherman going to take damage? Nah, that's not going to happen. We do have the Royal Giant push coming in, but the problem is there's not going to be a lot of support with it.
Yeah, Mortar as well going to be used. Likewise, coming with the Earthquake to get chip damage coming in from Noisy Boy. So he's doing a fantastic job this game. Doing way much more against Jess here. And the Earthquake completely messes up the Mortar composition. So you can see Jess is figuring out what can he do. He knows he's pretty much lost the game. I think this is pretty much a GG push, considering he's lost more than half his HP compared to Noisy Boy, who pretty much won off all his trades because of this composition. Card Cannon not benefiting him at all, knowing that the Earthquake is just going to completely take out both the Mortar and the Card Cannon.
Oh, this is so unfortunate. Look at this. The Giant Skeleton on the left, the Royal Giant on the right is too much pressure for Jess to keep up with, and there's no way he's going to be able to use his deck to mount any sort of a counter-attack because he's being pushed on the defensive every single cycle.
Yep, he's gonna try and go for the Mortar once again. Unfortunately, not gonna benefit out of it as well. The Royal Giant is gonna come on top. We are gonna go in towards overtime, but currently Noisy Boy, he can play this defensively if he wants to. All you gotta do is just play for time, because there's just no way he can drop this unless he makes a mistake. We are heading to his tiebreaker. You can see Zappies has been made. Very preemptively plays coming in. A sneaky Globin Drill on the bottom right as well. Somehow Noisy Boy was able to react to it. And he's going to try and build up that ramp once again, because the Scale Bomber is going to be available, and he's going to be setting up his Royal Giant on the left perhaps, but nope, it is going to be on the same side apparently.
It is going to be on the same side, but here's a question, right? Is there a possibility for Jess to try and mount a counter-attack?
Very unlikely at this stage game, but seems like he is going to try and make a desperate attempt as well. He's got 1 minute 25 seconds on the clock. unfortunately say, Noisy Boy, now he can do whatever he wants, right? He can play defensively, he can play offensively if he wants to, he can even force like major earthquakes and lock on the left side and just play it slow if he wants to. So as of now, he's gonna try and just play on the right side, which is a smart play coming from me, knowing that if anything happens, Jess won't be able to do much on the left side.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. He's just going to cycle it out and then go for an earthquake if he needs to. But I believe at this point, he just needs to wait a minute out and just play defensively. That's all he needs to do, because there's no way there's going to be so much damage being dished out by Jess that it's going to mean anything. But he needs to keep the pressure up on the top left tower for sure.
Yeah, this is really smart strategy coming from Noisy Boy. Why take the risk of trying to break the tower when you can play it safe just because Jess may or may not be able to make a comeback? And that's exactly what Jess wants to do, punish mistakes with the mortar and potentially turn the tides. And unfortunately, you know, if you swamp everything on the same lane, you do not make mistakes, because eventually it comes down to whether or not Jess can defend against this. And I think this is pretty much game for Noisy Boy now, and I don't think he can do much, but it looks like it's going to be the GG push coming in, Poison as well as Goblin Jew trying to trade off, but I don't think it's going to be enough damage to catch up. That's 800 for the difference as well. Earthquake on top of it all coming from Noisy Boy to trade on the left side, and that is going to be GG for Noisy Boy in game number 2.
Yeah, Jess losing composure right there, because even though he won the last game, right, he was under a lot of pressure. You can see it on his face. Noisy Boy, on the other hand, ice cold, isn't moving at all, does not care whether he's winning or losing, but is maintaining a lot of composure, making less mistakes. And I do believe Jess might just try and go for a Hail Mary deck, maybe the last time, because it is 1-1 right now. It's anybody's game, but Jess, I do believe he might come up with not even a pocket stat. It's just about pure desperation at this point.
Yeah, great adaptation so far, but at the same time, I think Jess is pretty much the only player so far in the all the top 16 that kept his same exact comp from game number 1 and not adapting, and knowing that players do tentatively adapt on game number 2 to try and respond to game number 1. And I think the match between both Mish as well as Sir Smoke-A-Lot was a good example of that, thinking that, hey, maybe Sir Smoke-A-Lot, he's going to play a lot of ramp composition, and then when you try to out-ramp the ramp, surprise, here comes an aggro deck right in your face. So it was a good mix-up, but I like how, what was it called? Noisy Boy is able to adapt on the fly with that a little bit of interpretation. The Earthquake just makes a lot of problems for the Mortar to actually pull off what it's intended to do, which is tank the Royal Giant, as well as trade off couple damage to actually go for a counter push. So the Earthquake just completely shuttered his Jess's dreams, and I think the Musketeer was also caught off as well for game number 2. So game number 3, is Jess going to play the same comp? I don't think he should. The variations that Noisy Boy changed in game number 2 was that he put in the Archer Queen as well as the Earthquake, which completely messed up the idea of playing trades from game number 1. So Jess has to take into consideration right now is that he needs to figure a way to deal with the Archer Queen, he needs to figure a way with the Royal Giants, and he also needs to figure a way to that may not be happening in game number 3, right? So in this kind of scenarios, I feel like the card cannon was a little bit overkill. The Mortar is also a little bit overkill as well. If you're going for like King Tower activation, Mortar is great. You probably need to cycle with Fire Spirits or even Skeletons. If he takes it out and replaces it with Tesla, you can go for a different composition rather than forcing the exact same comp coming from for Jess in game number 3 potentially. If that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, it does make a lot of sense, right? The problem is right now, look, you could combine something with the Goblin Drill, right? You could potentially combine it with something else, which will also go out there and dish out damage. Could be Earthquake, could be Poison, or could even be the Mighty Miner, who knows? But the problem over here is the Royal Giants and the Skell combo, right? The Giant Skeleton, which is so tanky. You definitely need buildings to stop all the damage which is being dished out.
Yeah, I think one of those games, the Infernal Tower, I think DVJ made a good example of adapting as well. He played an Infernal Tower over Mortar, over Card Cannon. So I think that's going to be the case. But so looks like the adaptation coming from Jess here is not going to be Mortar. It is going to be the Goblin Cage instead. So I like the adaptation. It is going to give up a pretty decent minion swarm to actually counter push as well. So hopefully it's going to be A-okay. But we do see Graveyard being played coming from Jess. Alright, very sneaky play. But the Archer Queen is going to benefit from all of this.
She is, but I do like the idea with the graveyard. Right? This is exactly what I was talking about. So he has a goblin cage to stop that tanky push. At the same time, he does have a graveyard. The question is he going to pair this up with something else? But the problem is that Noisy Boy has come in prepared.
Yeah, he did show his Archer Queen in game number 2 as well, but this Archer Queen just completely destroys a graveyard composition. Like a 5 minion elixir trade with a 5 elixir graveyard, and the graveyard just completely gets destroyed, and allowing the Archer Queen to benefit a little bit more value out of it. This is not a situation he wants to be in, because if he decides to go for a poison graveyard, it's not gonna shut down a elixir Archer Queen, because all it's got to do is just go for like a 1 mana cost, 2 mana cost skill, and it just completely shuts down everything that is intended to do by Jess.
I'm not entirely. Oh, no, fair enough. This is forcing the Archer Queen on the right lane. That is okay, but at the same time, the Inferno Dragon is just going to be able to dish out damage, taking so much damage from that bomb, though. That's a problem. And just cycling it out with Electro Spirit right there. AQ is going to be going towards the top right tower. He could back it up. He could potentially back it up, but yeah, no, he's going to choose to respond to whatever Jess is going to come up with.
He was able to react to the trades so far very efficiently as well. He lost up a lot of trades early on in terms of elixir consumption. He was able to redeem himself with a fireball instead. So as of now, there are still 50-50. It's just that Jess is losing out in the initial trade a little bit more in these trades. But Noisy Boy is also understanding that Jess's idea is going for chip damage composition, so he needs to chip his way through, and you can see Fireball immediately to respond to try and chip with spells rather than anything else. So it just puts Noisy Boy in a situation where he's forced to make plays that are very risky, but needs to be done in order to play against the variations that Jess may be bringing to the table.
True, absolutely true. But here's the thing: the damage. I do believe Jess is still a little bit on the back foot, but. Oh, okay, no, this is definitely going to be a Noisy Boy trying to mount a counter push and being able to actually mount a counter push, right? Because the amount of damage that has been dished out is unbelievable.
Yeah. It all comes down to the battle spell, right? Like Noisy Boy's win condition is pretty much making sure he lands a couple of fireballs along a couple of units on the tower on the left side, whereas Jess composition is trying to make the graveyard work, and unfortunately every single time he makes a play, the Archer Queen is going to be there to make it work as well. Even the Inferno Dragon is there, is not going to do a lot against an Archer Queen, which has the spell, but finally Noisy Boy turns up the aggression. Here comes the Royal Giant as well. Finally, the Goblin Cage comes in, but is it going to be able to do too much? Eventually, that is going to force out a little bit more chip damage coming from Noisy Boy and Jess. Mikesy losing a little bit too much on the trade-offs right so yet.
Oh, well, I think I sort of figured out what the issue was over here. I mean, look, Graveyard and Arch Queen obviously is a great is a great trade, right? Because AQ is 5 elixir as well, Graveyard is 5 elixir as well. The only thing that could have potentially worked for Jess is the ability to cycle through his deck really quickly to try and spam Graveyard, which is not possible because he does not have anything to cycle with.
Yeah, the idea of having the card cannon deal with Royal Giant is smart, but the card cannon needs to die, and currently Noisy Boy is understanding that the card cannon, as long as you don't kill the card cannon, it's fine. We can ignore it. We have other priorities. In this case, here comes the graveyard coming in. Zappy's as well going to delay the inevitable push as well, eventually taking a little bit damage coming in from Noisy Boy, but we are down towards the last 25 seconds. It's going to be the last GG push coming in from Jess as well as Noisy Boy, but as of now, Noisy Boy just having a fantastic offense here. We've got 2 towers coming in, but Jess, can he turn the tides? Another graveyard on the sides, but the fireball comes in, and this might be GG, as Jess will be dropping the game potentially in the final 6 seconds. 1 more fireball to play, and that is going to be Noisy Boy clutching it in game number 3 against Jess.
I'm actually I'm stunned at what Jess just managed to do with it, because, okay, walk me through this, IC, if you understand this play. The last graveyard was on the bottom right tower, and we did see him alternate between the two. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? He tried to go for the mix-up, right? And the only way he's able to make the comeback is that the Archer Queen gets used very, very quickly, right? And I would say Noisy Boy played it really smart. He made sure that the graveyard doesn't get a little bit more value. The Archer Queen is going to benefit from all the trade-offs because you're getting 5 for 5 trade-offs. Graveyard doing 0 damage. And by the time the graveyard finishes, your Archer Queen is going to be in the back position where you killed off the graveyard, pretty healthy push on the wizard, and you're gonna be able to make a counter push. Basically means that in the next team fight into the bridge, you are gonna have an additional Archer Queen for that. So that's the only downside about the skeleton graveyard composition. But at the same time, that's the reason why Archer Queen is just so much value, right? If anything doesn't go wrong, pop a two elixir spell, turn the tides in the favor of Archer Queen.
Oh, absolutely, and Electro Spirit was very helpful for him to try and just cycle through the entire deck, right? But let's move on to the highlights and break it down even more because there's a lot to talk about in this matchup. Definitely, Jess started off on a good note, barely winning the first game, but the last two games were noisy boy all the way.
Yeah, game one, you could see that Noisy Boy didn't exactly have a solution to the Goblin Drill composition. It's very annoying. I think so far, out of all the 16 games, we've seen a lot of Goblin Drill Poison composition. We saw a lot of miners as well to try and chip damage as well, coming from DVGI especially. But in this game, I like how they were able to adapt to the situation. But I think Jess kind of made the mistake in game number 2 where he likes to play this kind of he showed his head that he wants to play this kind of Goblin Drill composition, whereas game number 3, Noisy Boy expects this to happen. That's why he always had the Archer Queen. So game 2, he had the Archer Queen expecting something like that to happen. Game 3, he had it as well, and he kept going at it as well. And because of that, he was able to punish Jess's playstyle very, very efficiently with the Earthquake, as well as I think he actually had Earthquake over the Poison instead.
He did, but yeah, no. So this game, right? Again, the mix-up between the graveyard, the way it was being used, right? Now it's still understandable. All right, you want to use the Archer Queen on a different lane, fair enough. But the problem is, how do you cycle through to quickly spam the graveyard? The lowest elixir card you had was 3 elixir.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? The only difference between the loss here between Noisy Boy and Jess was that Jess hasn't been able to efficiently use his card cannon 2 games in a row because if you think about it, Royal Giant is focused on structures. And a card cannon, if you do not kill the card cannon, the Royal Giant was most likely ignore it and go to the next structure. And I think game 2, he had the Mortar as in composition, but game 3, he used the Goblin Cage, which is a very, very smart mix-up in terms of adapting. But the Goblin Cage gets quickly taken out because of the Archer Queen, which I think, again, was built up because of the graveyard, right? So he was able to stack up to an Archer Queen, a Royal Giant, as well as other units on top of what's coming towards the face lane because of the graveyard push coming from Jess. And you can't blame Jess that he did not play a good game, but the graveyard is what he tried to cheese way through, but didn't exactly pay off because of the Archer Queen. It's just super, super unfortunate for Jess in that matchup. He tried his best, but unfortunately, his best was not enough in that composition. Noisy Boy was just the better player.
It wasn't enough. It was absolutely not enough. But look, this is still the first day. The grand finals are happening tomorrow. So are the 2 quarterfinals and the 2 semifinals as well. Of course, all the players that have moved on are going to be preparing and are going to be analyzing the games that happened today. But let's talk about the brackets for a bit over here. Yeah, Venom making his way through, but unfortunately not being able to make it to the semifinals. We had Famous Kid, though, on the other hand, just going through. So it's going to be Famous Kid, Noisy Boy. And tomorrow we'll find out between Sir Smoke and DK who goes through, DVJ and Mohsin as well. But I feel like Sir Smoke and Mohsin could definitely be in the semifinals, but that's something we'll find out only tomorrow.
Oh, it's gonna be hard. I think it's very hard. Like on the left side, it's kind of predictable who's gonna be in as well. I was expecting Famous Kid to actually make it to the top 4 already before prior not a Venom plays or not, right? So I was very excited for Famous Kid and Venom, but for them to go into the matchup, I feel like Southeast Asia has demonstrated that they are a pretty strong region to play with as well. Famous Kid representing from Malaysia, Noisy Boy from Indonesia to make the top 4. But this matchup is going to be very difficult just because there's a very little information on what Famous Kid has played due to the buys, etc. Noisy Boy has pretty much showed a lot of his hands and he was able to adapt on the fly. So it all comes down to whether or not how they adapt to each other's playstyle. Whereas on the right side, I'm not going to lie, I like Sir Smoke a lot. But Mohsin versus DVJ, even though Mohsin is from Malaysia, I feel like DVJ's got a little bit more tricks up his sleeve compared to Mohsin, which is very similar playstyle to how how Jess kind of plays as well, where they like to play around the miners, they like to play around the Goblin Drills with Poison as well, which is very easy to readable, whereas DVJ has a very similar composition as well. So it's gonna be a battle between that. I might be wrong, but let's see how it goes for tomorrow's quarterfinals, I guess.
Let's see how it goes tomorrow. But I do believe it's going to be even more exciting because there are going to be a lot of strats coming up, a lot of counter strats coming up as well. Maybe some cheese strats. We'll wait and watch. But yeah, no. All in all the matches today were really entertaining to watch. I see. Anything that stood out for you?
Definitely, I'm hoping to see a Mortar composition, but just didn't pull it off as I was expecting
think
as well.
we've asked for too much. Right? We asked for Archer Queen, we asked for MK. We got both of it. We did see the can card as well, which we asked for. Motar, I mean, what I really want to see tomorrow, right, is here's the thing. We know what the meta is, right? We know it's a swarm meta. Our EQ is a really good counter to it. But I want to see something incredibly fast, right? A fast cycle deck, if that works out. Because
I think fast cycle decks is something that we did see a couple of as well when it comes to ramps, etc. Right? I feel like so far what really stood out for me was Famous Kid, because he was pretty much the only one who played a different meta from everyone else and played not one but two different variations in his gameplay in 2-0 and was able to just convincingly win this competition, his matchup. So I'm very excited to see how Famous Kid is going to play tomorrow when he actually plays in the top 4. So yeah, that's the one I'm actually looking forward to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But all in all, good fun. I hope all the viewers watching from home had a lot of fun as well. We have some really exciting matches coming up tomorrow, but at the same time, a big shout out to Fanfury for making all of this happen. And ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, again, same time, same place. Do watch us. Do not forget, because we have some amazing players going up against each other. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, it is going to be Icy Baby and Mama signing off.